Hello, how is everybody doing tonight? It's almost over. It's almost Friday. One more second. Hi, see who we got in here. Coolest reviews. Hello. I'm just going to say Tony because I never know how to say her last name. Tony. Hello. Ava. Angela. Thank you for the compliment. I made a mistake. I see some chatters, but hey, Christy. Hello, hello, hello. I would like to show you guys something to remind.
And Kai, when you're on Jen Lou's channel, what do you do with the like button?
Smash, smash, smash! Yeah.
So let's all be like Kai and smash, smash, smash that like button. And I can't get enough of it. I love it. Oh, you're peeling potatoes. Ooh. Previous. But it sounds I'm too close to the mic. Okay. Thank better. All right. Today, what a day. Who all watched? That was a lot. Okay, so for those of you who did not watch, confusing when I go to like share the in court. So yesterday, the way that, and I have to say for the this morning starts, I actually thought that that's how is it am I still too close? Cement, you gotta like, hey Kate, you gotta if Kate, y'all gotta go check her channel out. I forgot, Kate. I'm so very sorry. This link is for you, babe, if you want to come. But Kate and I were over in the on with the internet. Hold on. Sorry, you guys. Give me just a sec. Hang on a second. Is it better now? Because if not, I don't want to do it from. Hey, Allie. Then I'll have to. I don't know why my internet is doing this. Hold on a minute. Help. All right. Okay. All right. So, hi, Nonstop Mom. Left it yesterday. Okay. What had happened? The defense or to bringing in Alex financial reason that it was, oh my gosh, and negative 20, that's disrespectful. Anyway, okay, so let me focus. I can't look at the chart right now. What had happened was yesterday, the defense opened the door to this financial situation that Alec Murdaugh is in right now by asking a witness, was there anything that he could think of that would cause Alec Murdaugh to murder his family? Okay. And the judge had previously ruled that his financial stuff could not come in because he initially felt like the the level of prejudice that it would result in far outweighed the probative value. But when the defense asked a state witness on cross, basically for a character reference, it then changed the playing field because the state is allowed to bring in stuff like that because it goes to motive. Okay. Will you show me your pretty face real quick, Kate, just so I can make sure it's you? Because Anna, you're so pretty. Okay, it's Kate. No, I won't put you up there with the camera. Okay.
It's a little cold in my room, so I'm in my room.
Are you cold?
I switched rooms and it's a little chilly in here. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh no, blankie.
Yeah, I got my little fluffy robe on.
Okay, you okay?
I'm
you
good.
No
I'm good.
hater. Okay. So, why it's important is because for the state, their motive for all of this is that Alec Murdaugh was under an immense amount of financial strain. Okay. The boat accident lawsuit included him, but it also included his brother, it included his father, and one other person. There are 4 people, but I never can remember the 4th. Kate, do you remember the 4th person?
Him, his brother was it. It wasn't Paul, right? It was someone.
No.
His other brother, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
John.
Maybe both the brothers. Yeah. Okay. So, that was going on. At the same time, he is coolest reviews. At the same time, that was going on at home, essentially at work. There was a problem with a disbursement check. And so basically, the state's theory has always been that it was the financial strain that Alec Murdaugh was under that caused him to murder Maggie and Paul. And so when the defense opened this door, the judge, out of an extra abundance of caution, because there was a case that was overturned because the past behaviors came in, but the reason that it was overturned is because they did not have an in-camera hearing, and basically in-camera is closed door. It means without the jury. So hey, Jennifer the hooligan. Hey, Madam Nixie. Good to see everybody. So that's why it was overturned. So out of an abundance of caution, the judge decided, okay, put on a witness because I didn't tell the jury not to be here today. So put on a witness state, which they did, the Snapchat chick. And basically she explained that, Snapchat keeps your stuff in a cloud. So, which I was fascinated by and interested in. I don't want to say fascinated, but more like interested in, because in the Idaho 4 case, I'm curious, a lot of their communications were done through Snapchat, and I was curious about what law enforcement would be able to get. So rest assured, Snapchat's a snitch too. They'll tell everything if they're subpoenaed, period. And they will.
That's pretty crazy, because Snapchat is like, you send a message and then they act like it's, poof, gone forever. Hey, Tammy.
Hey, Tammy. I think that is for so that people can't do nefarious things.
Yeah.
However, people still do nefarious things. And so let's say they're sending CP to each other, right? Back and
Mhm.
forth. You would want law enforcement to be able to get a hold of
Yeah.
that.
Oh yeah,
So
it's
that's
good
why
that
they do it.
that. But it's funny because you think, like, you know,
Yeah,
people
that's
probably
people
think,
are under
oh,
the impression
yep.
that they can't get it. Spoiler alert, they can and they will.
So the judge hasn't decided yet if
No.
they're going to show it to the jury or not, right?
No. So what
Okay.
is going to happen is, so today they had on for this in camera, they had the law firm that Alec worked for. They had the CFO up there. And now don't get it twisted. This
That
gal
was
worked.
good. That was good testimony.
Was. Kate was in law and crime chat with me, and she and I were chatting to each other
Like,
every
oh, this
30
is good.
seconds. You're not late, Kez. We don't take attendance here at the ward. You know that. Just make sure you give me a thumbs up. Okay. So the judge says, all right, so put on a witness. They put on a witness. He tells the jury, don't come back till after lunch, right? So they put on the CFO. Man, this chick had all the tea, and don't get it twisted. Just because she is the
all the tea, and her brother-in-law is even connected to all this too. It's crazy.
Yes. Not only did she work her way up, okay, and she's degreed, she got her CPA, she did all of the things, right? But she's known Alec because they went to friggin' high school together for like 40 years. She's known him, something like that.
Yeah.
And so they put her on, and she spills all the tea. So after that, then there's some back and forth arguing, and the defense, this was funny to me because the judge is listening to the defense's argument about why this is no good. And granted, some of their points were correct. Some of the things that she testified to, she wouldn't really necessarily be allowed to testify to in front of the jury, which is right, because it would be technically hearsay. However, the state said, oh, no, don't you worry about that. That's no big deal, because we can call them too. So there won't be any hearsay. We have all the people
that interviewed the clients and stuff. She was talking about how she said, "Oh, she's like, I didn't interview all the clients, but they like, so and so did, and so and so."
Yes. So the state said, "No, don't you worry about that. We can bring people in. Don't you worry." So, but at one point, they were basically saying that this is too prejudicial. This doesn't prove anything. You can't.
Oh, I think it's necessary. I think
I agree.
I think it gives motive, and I think I can understand if it didn't lead to motive, like
right,
like if it was just some financial crimes he did, but it's connected. Like the same day she confronts him, they wind up dead,
right,
and it's
and then the next time he's confronted and under pressure, he gets shot in the head on the side of the road. You know, like that's the thing. And a lot of people are not, like, they don't understand how they feel like this is a leap. And I'll say this. So because it goes to motive, Nonstop Mom, and I don't think that the state has the motive all the way quite right. And it doesn't matter what, if it was me and you, what we would do. It matters what Alec Murdaugh would do. This is what my theory is after hearing the stuff today. I feel like there was a second helper there. And I'm very curious about Cousin Eddie. Kate has some tea on him. So this is what I think happened. I think that Maggie and Paul's murders were part of a bigger plan. I think he was there with Alec. I think it was Alec and Cousin Eddie. I think Alec very much pulled the trigger. I think Alec very much participated. I think that the reason that he took out Maggie was because Maggie held the purse strings, and Maggie controlled the money, but not only that, he was trying to move money around in an effort to
Into her
hide his
savings thing, right?
exactly
Mhm.
in an effort to hide his assets from the civil lawsuits. There's plural civil lawsuits, okay? Because the kids were all suing him, the family. Um, and Paul, to be quite honest, it does go back to the boat accident because that was all about they were about to open up the books. This was even before it started with right around the same time with the stuff at work. But
Yeah, and he was asking that lady, the accounting lady, for financial, like his what's it called, 1099 or whatever, his tax
oh,
documents
401k.
for that particular case. Like he was asking her, "Oh, I need this and this because I'm
Yes.
working on the financials for the civil
He was
case." Whatever.
moving money around, and the thing of it is, you even when you're married, there are some financial things that occur that require two signatures. And so if Maggie was part of it at all, she was going to get caught up in it. And let's be honest, I think there's a real good chance that had Paul gone to trial, he would have been convicted and he was facing prison time. And I'm not talking
Yeah.
about Training Wheel, Chris Watts, Dodge Correctional Facility prison. I'm talking about big boy prison. And he's a kid, let's be honest. And that's why I think Paul was
Alex maybe
removed.
convinced himself that it was a good
Correct.
idea.
Correct. He was saving his son. So then he sets up Cousin Eddie, and Cousin Eddie shoots at him in September on the side of the road. And I think what he intended to do was leave Eddie holding the bag for all three of the murders. That's what I think the plan was.
I thought he was
Unfortunately,
trying to make it look like he was being targeted by somebody, and when they discovered that it was him, then he dialed back and was like, "Oh, it was for, insurance." But I feel like he set up that whole thing to make it look like he was being targeted by the same people who killed his family.
I think he intended to be unalived. I think what he was doing was setting it up so that there was not, and whatever assets he had personally, that's what the lawsuits would get, and maybe the firm. But what he was trying to do is shelter money for Buster so that Buster could go on and be, just fine. That's what I think the true motive was. I might change my mind, but there. He did not unalive them for financial gain.
But I mean,
He
think
did.
about it like this. Everyone's looking at him. They're starting to see that he's stealing money,
Mhm.
and his family's all been killed. Why not make it look like somebody's attacking you, which would make it look like maybe you got caught up in some money thing and now people are coming for you, and to make it look like, they're the people who killed your family and now they're coming for you. You know what I mean? Like that's what I always felt like it was. But then when they found that knife that was his and his run flats, and it was like, well, now I can't say that. So
I do think that he was going to set this all up to be Cousin Eddie's. I'm very curious who that hair belongs to
and
in Maggie's hand, because there's rumors about that too.
Speaking of Cousin Eddie,
Yes.
if you look him up in the jail records,
Do it, Kate. Show him.
Hold on, I have it somewhere. He's
Okay.
he's under being held for safekeeping, which I thought was like
Yes.
the weirdest thing to say, is like being held for safekeeping. What the heck?
Yeah. It's very interesting.
So it makes me wonder, did he take a deal and he's going to be like a big witness or something? You know what I mean? Because that's, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing to say. If he was arrested, why wouldn't he be in jail for like what he was arrested for or whatever?
Right.
Why
Exactly. That's a weird thing. It's a very weird. No, Tammy, I don't think that let me just say this. Let's say I don't personally think that he had a pill problem. Do I think he probably threw pills back from time to time? Probably. But do I think he was an opioid addict? No. Dependent and addicted are two different things. You know, your body becomes dependent on him after something like 10 days, consecutive days. But like an addict, no. And I'll tell you why. He was a friggin' personal injury lawyer. He had access to all kinds of doctors. Hello. So he wasn't throwing away all this money on trying to confiscate pills. That's preposterous. But I mean, it got him, it, you know, it saved him from going straight to jail because he was in rehab. But as soon as he was done with rehab, they put his ass straight to jail.
I'm curious where all that like money that he stole went though. Like
I think that we're going to find, this is my thing. These lawyers that are representing him, they're not they're not court appointed. Are they? No, because they were there at his cabin before he was ever even charged. How are they sitting there and listening to the level of financial trouble that he is in? Do they think they're going to get that he has any money? He has nothing.
Yeah.
I don't know how they think they're going to get paid.
Maybe they think because it's going to be like a trial of the century type.
Maybe, but if they better start. It is now that they messed up and asked the wrong ass question.
Yeah.
Nonstop mom. There isn't. It's not, in my opinion. This is just my personal opinion. It's not a monetary gain. There would never be a monetary gain for Alec because, frankly, he was going to be paying on this settlement from the boat accident and for a long time. And so it wasn't a gain like financially. I think it was to avoid. I think he looked at unaliving Paul as a kindness because I think he was very, very worried about his son going to prison. And there are certain charges that you can't be out on bail on appeal.
Either that or he was afraid about like himself going to jail and, I think he thought maybe if he did that they would forget about all that stuff and,
he might have time to juggle stuff around. See, and the other thing is I think he thought that he was going to be able to cover some of this debt.
I do too. Later on.
Yeah, but with his dad's death, with his inheritance from that.
Yeah.
Oh, here, let me show you guys.
So yeah, it says hold for babe? Say again.
Can you make it bigger, babe? There you go. Perfect.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I just felt like that was undercharged.
Hold for safekeeping pre-trial.
But he's supposed to testify this week, I heard. So this will be big. Saving Paul from prison time and Maggie from embarrassment.
I mean, I do think he thought in his warped mind, and that's the thing. It isn't about our way of thinking. Mm-hmm. Okay. It's about his level of thinking. And I don't know, but
I mean, I'd like to think that in his mind, he really thought that he was helping him. But at the same time, I also feel like maybe he could have been, how his family's been, in there for generations. And maybe it was like he couldn't look bad and, just thought about some crazy thing so that he didn't get all caught up and he didn't want to go to jail himself. So it was like, what can I do? And right. Maybe like a rash and then convinced himself like, oh well, he'll probably go to jail anyway and she'll be embarrassed or
yeah. I mean, the thing is that you have I don't know anybody in real life that grew up in the way that Alec Murdaugh did, so I can't even ask them about this line of thinking as far as how embarrassing it would be but the thing is that y'all, Alex stole from his brother, for Pete's sake. He didn't give a
checks
rat's
from
fat
his
kneecap.
brother.
Yeah.
But like, what was he stealing the money for? Like, what? Like, I'm confused. Like, what was he using all this money for?
I think we have to be patient, because I think that question is going to be answered in his upcoming trial.
I mean, you got to be pretty freaking desperate to steal checks from your own brother. So, like, what are you so desperately stealing money for?
I don't know. I don't know, but I think we're going to find out. Maybe he was a gambler. I don't know. But I will say this. One thing that I haven't seen anybody talking about, which we talked about last night, is everybody is all hyped over this video. Let's make sure we're all clear about what this video is. This is not the Snapchat video. The Snapchat video is the video of Paul and Alec in the truck riding around looking at the trees. When Alec has a completely different outfit on an hour before the event. Okay. That's a Snapchat video. What was played yesterday in court to hear his voice was a video that was recorded from Paul's phone, but not sent to the intended person, who was Rogan
Gibson.
Rogan with a G. Rogan.
Yeah.
All right. So he didn't get to send it.
And you know what? It's funny too that he called Rogan over. And like, yes, I was wondering, maybe he thought maybe Rogan had seen something on FaceTime or that he had sent the video. I don't know, but I thought it was really strange that he says, "Oh, I picked up Paul's phone and I was going to do a little something with it, but then I decided not to." And then he calls Rogan, which is like, why would you call Paul's friend to come over when all this shit went down? I know he was like a brother to him, but like at that point in time, I would not have him over there. You know what I mean?
No. I mean, I would want to protect as many people as I could from that being their last vision of Paul and Maggie. So I would never want to expose somebody like that. And the thing is, I think that I think he wanted to talk to him. But what I find very, very interesting is this phone call. See, nobody's making a big deal about that, and that is a huge deal. Rogan heard him on the phone, not in the video. The video is the first in court. I mean, yeah, he heard him in the video way back when they were preparing for trial, but not that day. How he heard Alec's voice was on the phone call between him and Paul. He heard Alec in the background. That's very, very important. But I find it interesting on Alec's part that Rogan said that to in front of Maggie's mother and father, and Alec didn't give a reaction, which, now that I think about it, he is an attorney, and it's very difficult not
Who's
to
an attorney, Rogan?
No, Alec. He was there when Rogan said that, and he didn't correct him and say, "No, I wasn't. What are you talking about?" You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He didn't say anything. And I think that's why thinking like an attorney, you can't help but think like an attorney when you're an attorney. It's kind of like you can't help but think like a doctor if you're a doctor.
I feel like that's why the judge is being very, very careful with this too, because it's literally like Alex knows the ins and outs of all this, and even though he's not a lawyer anymore, they're gonna know every odd and end in the pool for a mistrial or whatever. So the judge is like being super careful, I feel like. And sucks for Alex that he has such a distinctive voice, because there's no denying that was him on the video.
No. Hey, Kaza67, good to see you. Welcome. I feel like, and that's the other thing. Do they actually need this motive? No, motive isn't necessary, but juries like it. They want to understand the why, even if they don't. It'll never make sense.
Everybody wants to understand the why. I mean, I think that's why we even do true crime, is because
correct.
Like, why?
Absolutely, 100%. That's why. But the point of the video and the point of the phone call is Alec said he was never near the kennels up
That he was
until
not.
he found Maggie and
Mhm.
Paul. That was the first time he had been on those kennels, at those kennels. And I know the reason he called Rogan, or I think it makes more sense. The reason he called Rogan is because I think he realized a little too late that what exactly Paul was doing in that kennel with Chase, and
Yep.
Chase was Rogan's dog, and that's why I think he tried to get a hold of.
Mhm.
But what's important is the jury is going. I think this is important. Do I think that it should be limited? Yes, it should be limited.
Yeah.
What they can testify to, but it should come in. Quite honestly, it should come in. So, I mean, all right. So, should we get to it, you guys? Are you ready? All right, let's get to it.
Hey, Sarah.
Hey, Sarah. Hey, Max. No, not entire screen. All right, hold on. Let me get this.
Yeah, you know that's how the Murdaughs are, though, because they try and get on top of everything. I mean, with the boat crash, they were at the hospital trying to talk to every nurse, get in every room and talk to everyone. Then with the Stephen Smith thing, he was the second person to call Stephen Smith's dad offering to take the case. I mean, they're just always on top of it. And now it just, I was like, he definitely said he grabbed that phone because he's covering for himself for picking it up and trying to go in there, which he probably couldn't figure out the passcode. That's probably why.
Which I think is hilarious that it was his birthday. And the reason I think it's so hilarious is because when he was being interviewed by the cops in the car,
he answered his birthday like 7 times.
Yes. Well, not only, well, it was more like he couldn't remember it.
Yeah.
Which I thought was funny. The irony,
But
Paul
yeah, I think he
is probably chuckling from wherever he is. I would be. That's the kind of ghost I'd be.
Yeah, right. I think he went to go get in that phone and try and delete it because he realized what happened after their kill, and then he was like, "Oh shit, I can't get in. Let me just call Rogan to come over." And I didn't even know that it was Rogan yet that he called over, but I'm like, "Watch, I guarantee you, he called Rogan." And then it came out the next day it was him, so I was like, "Definitely."
Hey T, you want to come up? Come on. There's the link, babe.
Hey, Criminality. Yes, Tammy, I do remember Julie. Tell her I said hello. I'm glad y'all are still BFFs.
Are we all ready?
I am ready.
Look at the judge. I think this judge is just adorable. I just adore him. I don't know why.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, there are matters that must be addressed outside of your presence. I do not know exactly how long it would.
Here we go. Oh, I didn't realize Bob. Wow, that's an antiquated haircut.
My name is Jeannie Seckinger, Seckinger.
Seckinger, how you doing today?
I'm good.
Good. Let me fix this Elmo real quick.
My name is Jeannie I can't say her last name. My name is Jeannie
Seckinger.
S. and I'm Seckinger, and I'm here to spill tea.
Oh yeah. Oh, and she was good too.
With my bob and my scarf. She was excellent.
Yeah, she was very stern and to the point. I loved when they tried to like get her and cross, and she was just like,
no.
Yeah. I was loving it. Like, yes.
I do too. This was so good. And look, if nothing else, I'll say this. If nothing else, if they don't let it in, which I think they should, but if they don't, at least we know now. And we have somewhat of an idea of what's coming up in the financial trial. All right, here we go. And hi, C.
You understand we're here right now outside of the presence of the jury for an in-camera hearing to determine the admissibility of some of your testimony.
I do.
Hey, Heather, whatever.
Just very quickly, if you would, give us a little bit. I'm not going to go through all the background.
Hold on, I just want to do one thing real quick before I forget.
And Kai, when you're on Jen Lou's channel, what do you do with the like button?
Smash, smash, smash.
Hell yeah.
That's my favorite part of it. Yeah.
It's hilarious.
All right. Now we're going to be for serious. Look, sort of. Yes. Yeah, she's mad. She's had enough. Well, this guy was going to look, this guy and his shenanigans with the money would put her CPA accounting license or certificate, degree, all the things in jeopardy. I think I hear Teresa.
Your Honor would
Do you want your camera on, babe?
About your background and where you currently work, how that led to where you currently work.
I graduated with BS in accounting from USC.
Hi.
All right. So are you guys discussing the fact that he's innocent?
No.
We're discussing all the things.
I think they're getting there. At first I was like, no way, what they got is this. But I think since Rogan, they have done a good job.
Yeah, I think that him being there is probably his most damning evidence so far.
Yeah.
But I still think they're going to be able to explain it away.
Yeah, they might. Well, yeah.
Hi, everybody in chat. Okay, so we're listening to today's.
Yes, ma'am.
Today, Junior.
We're listening to Jeannie S., who came to spill the tea in her stacked bob and scarf.
She's on it though. I like her.
She is on it. This is what I like about her. First of all, she is serious and to the business, right?
Mm-hmm.
But her scarf says, but Joe, I got a sense of humor. Don't think that just because I'm an accountant.
I'm a little sexy.
I'm a little sexy. And I can also be feisty. Rare. That's what that cheetah print means, I think.
CB Kell said, wow, I thought you were so serious. You guys, I'm not convinced that he's guilty. Jen and I were having this conversation earlier today. I'm not there yet.
I think he's involved to some extent. I don't know if he pulled the trigger, but I think he probably did. But I think he is involved in setting it up, if not, or to some extent like that.
Okay, so I have to ask then, what's the motivation to kill his wife and son? Why does he want them dead?
I already told you.
I'm asking Kate.
Oh, okay. Well, you weren't clear.
Right. So
sorry.
I'm going back. Like, I think Jen made a good point. So I that could be one of them. But I also I don't know. Like, I don't know what's going on in this man's head. But I feel like it could be like one of those things where he was afraid that he was going to get caught and he was going to go to jail. And things were closing in on him, and he kind of like was like, well, if I get caught, then Maggie's going to get caught, and then Paul is going to go to jail. So I'm doing them a favor type deal. But I think he did it to make to take like the heat off of him, so they didn't look into his financial crimes, because that's a lot of money. And
but do you think that they didn't look into his financial crimes because his wife and son died?
Well, I think that he thought it would give him time to figure shit out. You know what I mean? Like, oh, if people feel bad, which it did. Like, they didn't do anything until almost September, because his dad had just died, and then his wife and son were murdered. And then I think he tried to make it look like that somebody else killed him and that he was being targeted, and that's why he had Eddie shoot him. But then when they honed in that it was him and they figured him out, he was like, oh, it was for an insurance thing, But I think he tried to make it look like the same people who killed his family were after him. You know what I mean?
I think Adjusted Fate makes an excellent point here. It is true. If the state needs to be very, very careful how far down this road they go with the boat accident and all and the insurance, or the frauding of his clients, because that gives room for the defense to come in and say, like, look, yeah, okay, Alec has been accused of all these financial crimes, and all of the financial crimes that you listed, here's 87 potential suspects who had motive as well to take and seek revenge on Alec. And what would be the best way to get revenge? You take out his family and make him suffer. Do you know what I'm saying?
Well, not only that, he's a lawyer. Like, somebody could have lost the case to him and they could have been angry. You know what I mean? Like, there's all kinds of scenarios that could have went down. But I do think it's strange that he lied about being at the kennels and saying that he was never there, and that like a few of the guns are missing, and the clothes he was wearing that day they never found either. So I don't know.
Here's the other problem. It's going to be very difficult for me to get inside of the brain of somebody who shaves their head completely bald while they're in prison and then rolls into court wearing a whole ass toupee, and we're not supposed to say anything about it.
I look like the Aryan Brotherhood.
I think he looks like Mr. Burns from The Simpsons.
Excellent.
That's what he looks like to me.
Smithers.
Exactly.
Release the hounds.
I'm not saying the guy is innocent. What I'm saying is, and this is the conversation that Jen and I were having earlier, is that I have not spent the years since this happened digging into this case. I know the basic stuff of it. So listening to the trial, I do not feel that they have yet, and obviously we're not all the way done. I do not feel that they have yet convinced me that he is guilty.
I agree with you there.
I have only been looking into this for a week. I started the Sunday before the trial started.
Oh, I've been following this for a long time.
Oh, I thought you said earlier that you had followed it. You had been following it.
I followed it loosely, but looking into it.
Same.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, okay. So yes, we are close to being the same then. Yeah, I followed it loosely. Like I knew all the different scenarios with the housekeeper and the accident, and I knew all that kind of stuff. I didn't know like the details, or like I didn't know about a Snapchat video, and I didn't know about the raincoat.
I didn't know that either.
Oh yeah, most of that stuff didn't come out. So I mean, they knew. All right, so here's another thing. They said that it came out. All right. Now, don't get me wrong here, because I'm not saying that People Magazine is credible, but I'm saying that they put out a whole article and everything was right in the article. So I'm going to say this may be right too. But like they got everything right. Like months before the trial, they said that they were at the kennels and Paul did a video on his phone. I mean, they had all that right. So they said that Maggie was at Edisto Beach house or whatever. And Edisto. And he texted her and asked her to go visit his dying father with him. And I don't know why, but I don't know if that, like, they didn't show that. So I don't know if they're like just. Apparently, they were saying that he lured her there. Like, he said, hey, come over, come visit my dad in the hospital with me. And she was like, well, I don't know.
That's not true.
And then
that's what I thought.
She finally agreed to go with him and then came to the house.
Oh, okay. Now, I know this may be a little foreboding, but I do remember Critical K talking about this case. And I do remember Critical K mentioning a phone call from somebody between somebody and Paul. And I do think that she did drop the name Rogan. I do think, I think I remember that. I do remember her talking about it though.
I think that we all knew that there was a friend that he was talking to. I don't know if name was out there.
I'm saying, like, when all that came out, that also came out that he supposedly lured Maggie there, but they haven't touched on it. So I'm like, I don't know if he did, because he said, I don't know why Maggie was there or how she got there, he said.
But on her messages, she said that he wanted me to come home tonight.
Okay.
But there's nothing, they haven't gone too deep into what those messages were. I'm sure that they'll probably have her friend that she was actually messaging come up.
And then she messaged your friend and said, he seems like he's up to something or whatever.
Right.
I think, Kate, when we do our panel tomorrow to recap, I think we should go back over what the phone guy said about the text, because there were several texts, I feel like, throughout the early evening between Alec and Maggie. And perhaps they will get more into the contents of what those texts were, because
when they have the friend up, maybe they'll go into that when they have her up, and that's why they're like,
there you go. Maybe they're trying to lay this. See, this is my own. I have several issues, but one of the issues I have with the state is the way that they're presenting this case.
Yeah.
It feels a little disjointed. And I know that this is something that they didn't anticipate, having this in camera, because they did not anticipate this level of a mistake where they could kick the door in, because they opened the store and the state came in and just kicked it right on in and said, okay, we want to bring this stuff in. So anyway, I wish that they would have watched the Wagner trial and how methodical they were when they laid it out. How they started with the crime scene and worked their way to actual people. There were some out of like the order because of work schedules and when they could testify and stuff like that. But for the most part, it was very easy to follow. This one is, I feel, kind of disjointed.
Yeah. I like when they do it in a very good presentation type way.
Yes, like
it does feel like
shit.
That,
come on.
I thought they were doing a pretty good job up until today with the financial stuff. Other than that, I thought they were doing a good job laying it all out.
Well, maybe it kind of got a little skewed because they kind of just had to throw in the financial stuff today since it was their opportunity, and that's why it felt weird. But
I think what's feeling weird to me is that they've started out with, which makes sense. They started out with the first responders. They put them up on the stand. But you know who we haven't heard from yet? Or if we have, I've missed it. The friggin' medical examiner who did the autopsies. See,
well, no, because we're not at that day yet.
So they're going by
day.
That's kind of how I feel like it is. Like they're going through the days.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like the phone, and then
I guess that would make
sense. They skip ahead when it comes to like that they talk to the same person, multiple days later or whatever. You know what I'm saying? But I think they laid all the foundation for the first responders and whatnot, and then they went through everything that was transpiring during the 7th that night, and now they're going into like the after 911, like who comes and investigates. After first responders, they got that guy up there today who found the cell phone, who said that they never turned the phone on because they didn't have the pin. And then the lady gets up and testifies, yeah, they did.
So I wonder if they checked the phone for prints or anything. Well, I mean, I don't know. I guess he could just say, I just Maggie's phone or whatever. But.
No, CB Cal, I cannot imagine under any circumstances with the photos would be made public, not from the autopsy.
If they're leaked.
If they're leaked.
What do you think about the CB Rowe thing with saying
the affair?
Yeah, that people are saying there was an affair, and they had like DNA profiles, I guess, from her fingernails. I think they said, and they said that CB Rowe was a potential like candidate, I guess. I forget.
Yes, they exactly. Did. They said that it was more. It wasn't enough to be completely conclusive, but it was more likely than not. Something to that effect. Mm-hmm. We're just going to have to wait until that all comes out, because
I mean, that would be another motive. Maybe just Paul, got caught in the crossfire, but I'm pretty sure they said Paul was the one who died first. So that kind of threw me all off, because at first I always thought
it was him first for some reason.
Who said that he was the one that died first? Who said that?
I believe prosecution. They're going by the phone when the last texts and phone calls were sent and or received.
His phone, but they're locked within seconds of each other, in my opinion, I believe.
Let me see. But also because Maggie is running.
Yeah, and he was Maggie shot standing in the doorway, and Maggie was running.
I missed somebody actually confirming that our thoughts were correct.
I think that they're gonna. The state said that in their opening statements. However, they have yet to put on like a witness to actually like verify that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. But like my
Confirm
initial
it.
thought was maybe, Maggie was planning on getting a divorce, or there was something going on where, he felt like things were going to come out, or, whatever. So Maggie was the target and Paul wasn't meant to be there. And maybe, Paul grabbed a gun out of the room and then they had to shoot Paul.
But that doesn't make any sense that Paul wasn't meant to be there. They spent the day or early evening in the truck.
Yeah, they were all going to be there.
Driving around.
So their phones locked 30 seconds apart. FYI.
I think that the supposition is that Paul knew how to handle a gun. And if there was a firearm around, he would have tried to save his mother. So they took out the biggest threat first. I think that that's what the supposition is. Because two different weapons were used and they were in different areas, it would be very difficult to a medical degree of certainty know exactly for sure who was done first. But the supposition is that it makes sense, more logical sense, since it is close together, that Paul was first and then Maggie. For all we know, there could be there, and I don't get me wrong. Listen, I think personally that he did this, but I am willing to say that do I think the state has it locked? No, I don't.
Yeah, I agree.
There's a difference between me thinking he did it and the state being able to prove it. And as far as I'm concerned with this trial, the way the trial is going, there's room for reasonable doubt. They have not got it locked. And they think that Maggie was running away from the way that she was shot, because they're from the back, and then there are shots that are, once she's down, they are as if somebody's standing over her.
There's shots as she's falling. So like the trajectory is as she's falling, they're still shooting her, and then they walk up and they shoot her twice in the head.
Right. So over her, standing over her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it sounded like they were implying like, oh, Paul gets shot first. She starts running because they shot Paul, and then they get her, I mean, that's how they presented it, I believe, in opening statements. But
I don't know if they allow toupees in prison, Angela. Let me look that up.
They might in the jail like he's there during trial.
Maybe he's trying to be part of the Aryan Brotherhood, and that's why he shaved his head.
Oh, sweet Jesus.
Can you see Alex being
He's trying to click up.
I cannot figure out motive. I'm going to tell you over and over again. It doesn't make sense.
Listen,
part of me thinks maybe there's something we don't even like. There's more. Like if he was this bad with stealing money, like first off, what the hell was he stealing all this money for? Like maybe there's some shit we don't know about that's just like deeper than. And it's going to come out during the financial part of it. See, that's part of the problem here, is that there are other pending charges. And here's the thing, and I said this to Teresa earlier. Chris Watts, the motive that they came up for Chris Watts.
I think he had motive to kill the girls, though. So I disagree with that, because I think he had motive to kill the girls.
Right. Okay. I don't think that he had motive to kill anybody.
To kill the girls? I don't honest. I think he just could have divorced her. And
he could have divorced her, and would have been uncomfortable. Would Shanann have held his feet to the fire and made him pay his child support on time? Absolutely. Yeah, she would have on all three of the kids. But I don't. His motive, there's no justifiable reason, and nobody's motive, in my opinion, ever makes sense to me. The women that unalive their husbands for $150,000 worth of life insurance when the dude has like 40 more years of working, he would actually be pulling in way more money than that over the next 40 years. That does not make good financial.
The Pike County massacres, like take out a whole family over.
Right, exactly. Look at Toads.
We're talking about do we understand the motive? No, I don't think that we're not going to understand the motive, because obviously there is no reason to kill Shanann, the girls. There is no reason to kill Paul and Maggie. There is no reason, because there's obviously another way around it. But in looking at it, trying to figure out what their motive would be, I see why Chris had a motive, what his motive was.
I see what you mean.
He wanted to live with NK. He wasn't going to be able to do that with Shanann and the kids around. It was never going to happen. He was not going to be able to live this life that he had for these 6 weeks, 8 weeks. With
Footloose and fancy free and all the butt stuff. I get it.
So even if he killed Shanann and didn't kill the girls, now they have the responsibility of taking care of children. Can't live all footloose and fancy free with these girls. And she wants to be the first one to have his kids. So in my opinion,
I understand what you mean.
I do not think that it was necessary to do any of it.
I see what you mean.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm like,
you disagree with the state's theory of motive in this case.
I don't get why he would have a motive. What does he gain?
Sam.
What does he gain? What does he get? What does it accomplish? Obviously, there's all kinds of people who, kill people all the time, and there's not motive, and there's typically some type of imbalances. And so, like we have these mass shooters that are going into bars, and we have them going into schools, and there's just no rhyme or reason, which there isn't going to be because it's typically mental illness.
Right.
But for a case like this, where it's not a family annihilation because he only kills 2 of them, he has another son that's out there. He doesn't kill himself, tries to have himself killed later. But so here's what I think. This guy has lost his wife. He's lost his son. He's lost his job. He's lost his reputation. He's lost his dad.
He hadn't lost his job yet.
Well, he basically lost a job. He had not been working. He was not still practicing law at that time. He was under investigation.
Oh yeah, that's true. Okay.
Well, he would just he wasn't under investigation yet when they were killed. She just said to him like, "Hey, I found this."
He tried to kill himself.
Okay, when he tried to kill himself.
That there's a couple different theories, but I'm saying like he had a lot of shit had just happened. Like people have killed themselves for less. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah, but like why? I don't know. Like why would he have some other? Well, I get for the insurance, but like I feel like I don't know. I feel like that would have been a perfect, hey, look, they're after me too diversion, like to make everyone think that it wasn't like everyone's eyeing him up at this point. Like, oh my gosh, you killed, like he probably killed his family, and then they start uncovering that he stole money, and then people are side-eyeing him even more. And it's like, oh, well, let me just have someone shoot at me, and they'll think that, I'm completely innocent in all this, and that whoever killed Maggie and Paul is trying to kill me now. Like, that was the first thing that came to my mind. Is like, oh, look, he's trying to, like, make it look like somebody is after him.
I think Teresa that there was, I think he thought that he could buy time now, not with Paul and Maggie. I think that he was going, he had been, and Jeannie talks about this. Hey, Lori, this was not, this time that he got caught wasn't the first time that he had some issues at the firm. Okay.
No, and nobody cared. They all just let him pay back the money and go on with their merry life.
Exactly. Except for this time, it was different. This time he went too far. It wasn't about the amount of money. It was the fact that he freaking opened up an account at Bank America. It was a personal account, and they didn't
know that yet, though.
They did know that.
No, because he was not with this one not on June 7th.
Mm-hmm.
Well, all right. So I believe on June 7th she found a check that, if I remember correctly.
Well, let's hear her.
Later.
Yeah, she said
hear her. She did say it. She
says on June 7th is when they were trying to find the rest of the funds that were supposedly in that Chris guy or whatever his best friend's account. And when they called, he said, yeah, the funds are here. Because the funds were there. He had replaced the funds with his own money. So there was no money technically missing.
I thought the Chris guy didn't call till like July and say
he didn't. It was July. And that's the thing.
Yeah.
So this is what I think he did. When I'm not talking about okay. At the same time as he is under pressure at work and being questioned and being pressed about this one specific case, this was not a little bit of money. This was $750,000, over three quarters, right? 790 something, $92,000, right? That's over $750,000, right? Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, but I think his part was like 190 some thousand or something like that.
No, his part was 792,000 that he had to pay the firm. That's what he owed. That was his cut.
All right, okay, play it.
Okay. Well, but that's not my point. So my point is that at the same time that he's under this, he's thinking, okay, this is no biggie, right? Because his dad is sick and they tell him that it's terminal this time, right? So he's thinking, all right, it's probably going to be not much longer. I can buy myself a little time. I think he thought he could pay the money back.
Get inheritance.
I think he thought he was going to be fine. But
Maybe he was one of those irrational people that thought like he was more worried about his image and how he was going to
I think it all played into it. I don't think it was one single thing. I think it was the culmination of all the things. I vehemently disagree with the theory that Maggie was going to leave him. And the only reason I believe that at that point ever, I can't say, but at that point, no, because the day that they were killed, 3 days from that date, on the 10th, June 10th, is when the start of Paul's trial was. And Maggie knew that first of all, it would not show a good public image. Okay. A family divided is bad news bears in a trial like that. That's number one. She needed to be strong for her son, and she wouldn't do anything to upset the situation and cause him to be distracted during his trial. There's no effing way that Maggie was going to divorce Alec at all.
And they just went to a baseball game together too, didn't they?
Yeah. I mean, you can fake your feelings. Do I think that they were butt crazy in love? Hell no. I think they tolerated each other. That's what I think happened.
I think so too. I think she was staying at the beach house because, they tolerated each other. She said it was because of the flies, but
right. I think I think they both tolerated each other. I think that it wasn't just the pressure from the firm itself. It was the pressure also from the other attorney. What was his name? Chris, whatever, W. Can't remember his last name.
Can't remember his name either. I want to call him Chris Miller. And it's not Chris Miller.
No, it's like Chris W. I know it's a W, but I can't remember.
Chris Lowlittle or some weird L name like Chris.
Well, we'll find out because she finna spill the tea. We ever get there. Wilson. That'll be an easy one for me to remember. I'll remember from Castaway. Wilson.
Maybe it was Russell's last name I'm thinking of. Wasn't his name an L name? Her brother-in-law?
Oh, maybe. Okay. So he was pressuring him too. He was like, bruh, I fronted the money. That money was already paid to you and spent. It wasn't saved. That was his money. Personal money. It was Chris Wilson's personal money. That was the problem. All of it was just Russell Lafitte. That's what Lafitte.
I knew it was L.
You said that's a funny last name. There you go.
I was like Little. I don't know, something with the L. That was it.
All right, let's play Jeannie, because look, she is not playing. She is accessorized. She got her glasses on, and she came to spill the tea. So let's hear her tea, shall we, girls? What do you think?
Do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do it.
Went to work in an accounting firm for a few years, then switched to industrial at Westinghouse.
I'm going to be in the
And
chat.
in 1999, I came to work at PMPED, which is Peters, Murdaugh, Parker, as a temporary bookkeeper, and that has grown over the years to the office manager, CFO, accountant, anything business and insurance and HR related.
Okay, and that's for whom?
For Peters, Murdaugh, Parker, Elsdorf, and Dietrich.
So that's PMPED,
Correct.
and that's the law firm that Alec Murdaugh used to work for.
Correct.
Does that have a different name now?
We are now a new entity that's called Parker Law Group LLP.
Oh, All right. So just very quickly, you've already kind of said this, but go through sort of the financial side of your job duties as it existed for PMPED back in the relevant time periods.
Okay, so my financial duties are, actually, I have people under me that do the day-to-day processing of checks, but my duties are to balance and reconcile accounts, provide financial statements, help with all tax documents, preparation of taxes. Also prepared anything for any government census or surveys that we needed and anything HR related.
I want to ask you a little bit about the financial structure of how PMPED works, if I could. And if you could explain that a little bit. People often think of lawyers as partners, but are they called partners under the employment agreement that everyone signed?
No, we're called partners when we refer to each other as they're in the business, but for tax purposes, everybody was an owner. It was a C corporation, so everybody's shareholders. And within Peters Murdaugh Parker, every employee was a salaried employee, including the partners.
Okay. And did the employment agreement that everyone signed require that any fees or money generated by any partner or lawyer by the firm had to go to the firm?
It did.
And explain to me how, if you're let's just call them quote partner, if you're a partner, how does the compensation work? What are the elements of compensation as it worked under the PMPED structure back in 2021 and prior?
So every partner received a base salary that they would receive in biweekly payments throughout the year. That was set at a level of about $125,000. The majority of their pay came through an end of the year bonus, which is when we closed out the books and settled on the books. And primarily after overhead and expenses were met, the net profit was divided amongst those partners. And in a simplified form, it was basically distributed based on a ratio of the fees that they brought in percentage to the total.
Right. But that distribution would not take place until when?
Usually the last week of December.
Yes, sir.
Waters, there's a strike. Can you repeat the previous question for me?
Yes, sir. Going back a second, Joe, we were talking a little bit about the compensation structure for PMPED as it existed in 2021. And if you could, again, explain to the court how that worked. How are partners, and we're going to call them loosely that term, how are they compensated?
Okay. Partners are employed salaries who are paid a biweekly paycheck throughout the year with a base salary of $125,000. And at the end of the year, they received a bonus check, usually in the last week of the year, that divided up the remaining profits of the firm based on the percentage of revenue each attorney brought into the total.
All right. So when fees came in, they're going to be attributed to a particular lawyer, and ultimately that's going to be a percentage of the total revenues, and that's going to determine their percentage of the compensation at the end of the year after all overhead is paid.
Correct.
Is there also some sort of 7.5% fund or fee or something like, or not, or amount that's put aside?
There is. You would take the gross bonuses that are the gross fees everybody brought in, less than overhead. And once we get to that number, everybody would throw in a pot 7.5%, and that money was divided back equally among the employees. And then a new percentage was arrived at to determine how much everybody would receive of the net income.
All right. So you have to take care of overhead, right?
Yes.
And what is an overhead generally?
Overhead is just basically the expenses to run the business, what it costs us to advance client costs, what it costs to pay our employees, what it costs to rent the building, to provide equipment, office supplies, postage, et cetera.
Right. And that's got to be accounted for, and then you got to account for this 7.5% that as well, correct?
That's right.
All right. And then only after that does each partner get compensation based on their relative contribution during that year.
Correct.
Is typically the vast majority of compensation received by a partner at PMPED received in that distribution at the end of the year?
Yes.
And when does that take place?
The last week of the year, generally speaking.
Okay. And what is the point of that goal? Why do you want to sort of clear out all the money and clear the books?
So basically, that we don't want to leave the money in there to be taxed by the corporation because it's a C Corp entity. So the objective is to get it out to the partners and avoid double taxation.
And so because of that, is it up to each individual partner to essentially manage
This
the
is
bulk
my
of their
favorite part.
compensation that's received in one lump sum during the course of the next year?
Yes, they need a budget.
All right, let me
I need Jeannie to come over and straighten out my finances so I don't have to have a 5-hour and KFC fund.
show you what's been marked for purposes of this hearing as States 310 and see if you recognize that document.
Yes, this is the employment agreement each shareholder/partner would have signed.
Okay.
All right, should we skip
And
this
I just
part
want to direct your
and
attention
move to the juicy stuff, girls? What do you
to
think?
number 2, and
like
if you could tell the court what
What?
that provision.
juicy.
Yeah, we should move to the juicy. All right, let me see. I'm gonna go
I don't know.
a little
She's,
ahead.
I like her in general.
I do too. I'm telling you, Teresa,
part
I
of-
need her to come and straighten my finances out.
I don't just want to talk to her because she's just like no bullshit. When she talks about the fact that she walked up the stairs, and we'll probably end up hearing it, but when she talked that she went upstairs because his office was on the second floor and he's leaning over on a filing cabinet and like gives her this dirty look.
Yes.
He's like, what do you want now? And she's like, oh, you want to know? Like, let's go in your office. I was like, no, you're showing it out.
Well, see, this is the thing that gets me about this whole thing. And this is why, hi, Diane. This is why I found her testimony so riveting, because he's moving money around and doing illegal shit, but he's working for them. He's under contract. This is an employment situation. And at the end of the year, when the books ain't right, the tax man is going to come a calling and everybody is going to be in trouble. And that's what it was. And she sussed him out immediately. Like, it was all fine and dandy when he was doing some shady stuff, right, for all those years, because he was paying it back. But what she really had an issue with was it was a moral and legal issue for her. But I think it might have been like 55% moral and like 45% legal, because he was trying to hide money in preparation for the lawsuit. That's what it was. And she knew that was not only like illegal, but it's really morally wrong. You know what I mean? And that's what got her on that. He messed with the wrong one. You look at her. Does she look like somebody that's going to take any bullshit? Not to me. She doesn't.
No, and she doesn't have a fear in the world sitting up there. She's just like, bring it.
This is like when you are done dirty by somebody, right? And you've sat back and you've sat back and you've sat back and you've watched them do other people dirty. And then finally somebody comes to you and wants to hear your story. And you're like, hell yeah, I'm ready to tell it.
It's been brewing for a long time and she's ready.
Yes.
The other thing she does is she's like, what did they say? Like, this would have to be like, they'd have to testify. And she was like, well, they have. And he's like, they've testified here. And she's like, no, they've testified and it's been turned over to the Supreme Court and it's been turned over to I don't remember all the people she said, but she was just like, no, but everybody basically knows about this.
I like when she corrected the lawyer about the law and said, no, that would be hearsay or something to that effect. Remember that part? Mm-hmm. We like you over here, Jeannie. Listen, I don't know what kind of subpoena they got your ass under or if they have you under one at all, but if anybody knows this woman, please give her my contact information. It's in the about section. I would love to have you up here to break it all the way down for her family.
So, I mean, she's pissed.
Yeah.
Client recovered $250,000. You can see it came from 3 different.
Oh, wait, we went too far.
I'm going to show you just real quick what's been marked for purposes of this hearing, States 311, and see if you recognize that series. I think there's 4 documents in there.
Yes, these are the Hirschberger settlement documents, which is the case that we're talking about, the fee that he sent as a structure.
This is the case that started it all.
And are there 1 or 2 in there ultimately?
Right?
There are ultimately 2. There's one that's structured to look like fee, and then the other one was structured to look like it was client's money that was being sent on the client's behalf.
Which one were you aware of at the time?
I was aware of the fee one for the $83,333.33.
All right. At the time, did you think that any money had been misappropriated or stolen, or did you just think Alec was trying to sort of divert some money because of the boat case, but not necessarily anything misappropriated.
Right. We were not thinking about him misappropriating funds or stealing any client funds. What we were concerned about was he was trying to either defer income by leaving it in somebody's trust or either trying to put some money into Maggie's name to avoid things for the boat accident.
When you said we were concerned, who's concerned?
Myself and some of the partners.
Why are y'all concerned about potentially trying to put money in Berkshire or in Maggie's name because of the boat case?
Well, because that would be wrong and we did not want any part of that.
She absolutely did, Corky. This woman is great. She understood the assignment. Yes, she did.
Oh, yeah.
Teresa, you got to come over with me and Kate to the Law and Crime Chat in the morning. We've had fun over there. Emily's over there with us too. Emily Fotia comes to the Law and Crime Chat in the morning too when they do the trial.
I typically am watching on Law and Crime, but I don't normally chat. I'm normally just listening while I'm trying to get everything done
Yes,
in the
that's
morning.
the document that is in question
No
with
more of that. Now you must chat.
$83,333 fee sent to Forge.
All right. And right there, and tell me what this disbursement sheet is very quickly. Explain that to the court.
So this is where the client recovered $250,000. You can see it came from 3 different insurers, and we would take a portion of our fee. Generally, this looks like a third, and our expenses of $9,300. The Sedgwick claims would have been a lien that we were paying off, and then the $140,678.55 would have been the money dispersed between the beneficiaries of that estate.
And what is this line right here?
That would represent the fee.
At this point in time, had you actually seen the check that was
Did I go too
This
far
was
forward,
made out for
y'all,
those
where she
fees?
explains it all?
I don't recall if I actually,
I think I went too far forward. Did I miss the part where she explains the whole chain of email situations?
Mm,
Oh goodness, I don't know.
I'm not sure. I know when she starts talking about it, that's when she talks about where she called on with the check because it was a Bank of America check or whatever.
Yes.
And then
But the part I want to hear is the begin. I think I did go past it. Shit. What should I do? Keep going? We're going to forge ahead because I think they talked to her about it on cross, so it's fine.
looked at it that.
It's going to come again.
normally fees,
Oh,
where
no,
would they
it's
go?
coming.
If they,
Okay, Karen says it's coming.
Normally, if fees would come to us and we would deposit into our income account, what we call our income account.
So fees come in from somebody who pays a settlement, where do they go initially? What account do they go in?
To the income account, the PMPD operating income account.
Okay. Fees go in there?
Yes,
All right. When a settlement comes in, where does it go?
it goes into a client trust account for the benefit of the client,
And then the portion of that is allocated for fees, it goes from the trust account to where?
to the income
I like
account.
what I did there, forge
It
ahead.
usually
I
doesn't
know.
go out to
Clever.
Forge Consulting or anything like
No.
that.
Hi, coolest. Welcome back.
After you had that conversation at Alec, did you follow up any more on the matter?
We had a couple of conversations about it in relation to when we were having some other conversations, but we didn't really readdress this again until late August, early September.
Did you kind of put it on the back burner?
I did. I was, at that point, it had been done and I was trying to figure out how we were going to account for it on our books and just kind of had it out there as a reminder to try to put in my mind later to see if anything else had been done like that or to see if he was going to try to do that again.
After that particular event, you said that was in late May sometime?
You're right.
Did another matter come to your attention about disbursements as it related to Alec Murdaugh's practice in his business?
It did.
And tell me what that was, please.
So this was a case called the Ferris versus Mack truck case. And on a Monday, I believe it was May 24th, Annette Griswold called me and said that she had something she needed to discuss with me. I was out of the office that day in our Waldeboro office, but when I returned, we met. And when she showed me, what had happened was we received a check for our client expenses. So this case was actually dispersed by the associated attorney, which was Chris Wilson. So he sent us a check for the money that we had forwarded as client expenses, but we did not receive a fee check. And that is itself is odd generally.
And why is that odd? Why didn't that call you? Because y'all had received a fee check from Alex's best friend, Chris Wilson, but not the, the expense check, but not the fee check.
Right. Most of the time we receive them together. Well, Annette, when she did not receive them together, called my assistant Nicole to make sure we had not already received the fee, verified that we had not already received the fee. And at that point, Annette had some conversations with Vicki Lyman in Chris's office. And Vicki informed Chris that their bosses had already got the fee when the settlement was signed, which had happened in March. And this was May.
And Vicki
See,
informed Chris, or
Teresa,
Vicki
all this
informed
stuff
Annette?
was coming out in May, babe.
Vicki informed Annette of that.
Right. So why is that a concern to you that now you're hearing the fee's already been paid?
Because now we know we don't have the check. We've never received it. So either he's got a fee, either he's got a check he hasn't turned into us that is properly payable to PMPD, or he's received a check payable to him.
Right. And when you were considering the possibility that he perhaps received a check payable to him, aside from that being stealing, as you earlier testified to it, what's your concern then?
Saying that he's trying to hide money from the boat wreck.
Right. All right. Stand by for me.
Okay, Jeannie, now listen, you are all of our spirit animals in this chapter. You got to back up off that mic when you're breathing like that, babe. That's just not a good look. Please.
This, though.
She's had enough. Well, because I think, she was like, look, whatever the situation is with Paul, that's between y'all, but you're not fixing to drag my job into it and get me
What's
fired.
been marked as, for the purposes of this hearing, as Exhibit 312, and see if you recognize this document.
Of course
Yes,
I do.
this
I
is
wrote
the expense check that we received in the Ferris matter
Okay. And
from Wilson Law Group.
just quick flip through it and just tell me generally what's in that packet.
The rest of the packet is our deposit, which is an internal record, our client cost report, which matches that expense check. Then the rest of it, the second, what I'm looking at right now is a check made payable to Richard Alexander Murdaugh Esquire for $192,000, and it references Ferris fees.
Okay, keep going.
That's the 192
Next
that
page
was
is
originally
the
there.
deposit where it says Bank of America deposit only. And it looks like ACH. That looks like, it actually looks to me like LX initials. And then it says Bank of America.
Is there a series of emails after that?
Series of emails starts with Vicki Lyman informing Annette Griswold about the fact that their bosses had received the fee back when the disbursement was signed.
All right, let me put those emails up on the screen. I believe there's no objection versus this hearing. All right. So this is email, and Annette Griswold, explain to the judge who Annette Griswold is, please.
Yes, please.
Annette Griswold is one of LX primary paralegals.
Okay. And right here, this is an email that was ultimately
appreciate
sent
your
to you
tips
as,
and
as
tricks.
part of bringing this to your attention.
Coolest.
Yes.
I'm all
All
for,
right, and what
for
is she asking right
constructive
there?
criticism and help.
She said, why just expenses and no fee?
I don't want to sound like butt.
All right, and what was the response there?
Dear friend, it is only cost because your boss and mine and Liz's got their fees once they were signed.
Okay.
Dear friend, uh-oh.
So, and that's informing you that Chris Wilson's office says they already got the fees.
Correct.
Yes, they did.
All right. After that, did you have a conversation with Annette what to do?
I did. I actually talked with Lee Cope. We went to Lee. Sometimes a lot of the partners are not in the office, and Lee Cope was the one who was in the office. So I went to talk to Lee about what we should do. And of course, Annette was worried about getting, ramifications if she was wrong and didn't want to be in trouble. So Lee and I decided to take it over from there. And the course of action that we decided upon was that I would send an email to Annette requesting the disbursement, the supporting documents, and the general ledger printout for Chris Wilson's office, which is what we keep in our office.
All right.
And look at that.
So really his paralegal caught him. Like,
yes.
It was her.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I think she just knew something was wrong. Something's not right.
Yeah, and the thing is Jeannie over here, who is clearly a girl's girl, said, "Hey, now don't worry about it. Since I be handling the money, I will just act like it came from me. I got you. Don't worry." That's what I like about her. Sure, I'll cover for you. I'll act like it just came from me. I mean, it's perfectly reasonable. I'm the accountant. I'm the CFO. I handle the money. This is a perfectly reasonable request, and we just can leave you completely out of it. See, she's a team player. Look at Alec's face right now.
Yes.
Where I need to clip that part from Steven's interrogation where Detective WD-40 tells him, "You're fucked either way, Steven." So I can play that when they make this face right here, because this is definitely Murdaugh's "you're fucked either way, Alec."
If we go right here, is that the email you're speaking of right there?
That
It's
is
probably sad to hear it wasn't
May
paralegal.
27th.
All right. And so then what happens to that email from there?
What, babe?
He's probably sad to find out it was his paralegal who found everything out, because he probably just thought it was Jeannie the whole time, but now he's hearing
Probably.
that it was his paralegal and they were working behind the
And he's
scenes.
like-
That's why he's probably mad.
He's like, "Man, and I got her a nice towel set for Christmas." Something cheap. He seems cheap like that, like a prepackaged fruit basket or something.
You know darn well that she bought her own Christmas present and was like, "This is what you got me."
Probably. That's true. That's true. Like Scrooged. Speaking of Scrooged, this is just on a Bill Murray related note. Today's Groundhog Day, and apparently we're going to have 6 more weeks of winter. Not me, because I'm in the Floridas. But for the rest of y'all who live in Penguin Land, good luck.
If we look over to the next page.
Well, in fairness, Punxsutawney Phil only gets
hold
it right
on, hold on.
Vicky.
I'm in PA, so I'm in Penguin Land too.
How do you feel about Punxsutawney Phil? What do you think? He is kind of not reliable.
I think
He
he's
gets
a
it
liar.
right 40% of the time. So
Yeah.
Well, bless it. Oh, that's
Oh my
so
God, I
cute.
love Heather Whatever's comment. I know, I love it. I want a
Yes.
Groundhog Day card. I didn't even know they made them. I want one.
Maybe we should do that. Maybe we should make that a ward tradition
We should.
and send
We need
each
to give
other Groundhog Day cards. Yes. That's what we're doing. It's in the books. I'm going to have to check. I'm going to have to clear my expense report with Jeannie first, but I'm pretty sure I can swing it.
Or you can just take a check and write it to yourself.
I'm not misappropriating shit, Jeannie. What are you talking about?
It's for Groundhog Day cards. Hello.
Hello. All of this is a tax write-off. This is my business. So,
In Chris Wilson's office was on vacation. So on June 2nd, Annette clarifies with Vicky what exactly we were looking for. And again, she asked for the full
Oh my
disbursement
God,
paperwork,
that's even
including
cuter.
the disbursement sheets, expenses, supporting docs, and ledger.
Right. And you're included on that email?
I am CC'd, yes.
hey, what does CC stand for, by the way? Does anybody know?
All right. Did y'all ultimately get a response on that?
Vicky responded that she would have to send that email to Chris because she did not have privy to that information.
Isn't it copy something? Let me
So
see.
that was on the 2nd.
Carbon
The
copy.
next day,
Carbon
Alec
copy.
came into my office early
Is that what
and
it is?
asked me
Carbon
why I
copy?
needed that information
Oh.
and assured me that the money was in Chris Wilson's
Thanks,
account
girls.
and that they could get it anytime.
Okay. And did y'all discuss anything further when you had that conversation?
Just that we needed to get it, or I needed proof that it was there, that it was necessary to get it. At that point, I didn't indicate to him that I thought it was missing. I was just asking for the documentation.
Jeannie,
And that was
back
on what
up
day?
off the mic.
That was sometime in between June 2nd and June 7th.
Okay.
I know it's
All right,
getting near lunchtime.
on June
but
7th,
we
did the
gotta
issue
eat
come
that
back
bit.
to a head?
The issue did come back to heads.
Just clear, this is June 7th, 2021.
This is, yes,
And how much were these fees supposed to be? Did you know?
$792,000 in total.
And to this point, the firm had not received those fees. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And Chris Wilson's office is saying initially, we already dispersed them.
Yes. And Chris Wilson's not saying anything to me.
Was, to your knowledge, was an inquiry made to Chris Wilson at that time?
Lee Cope, we had not inquired Chris Wilson other than requesting this information at this point in time.
All right. So tell me about June 7th. How does that go?
So on June 7th, I was going to make another run at finding out from Alec if we had their information. I went upstairs to his office is on the second floor, and he was leaning on a file cabinet outside his office. And he turned and looked at me when I came up and said, "What do you need now?" And gave me a very dirty look, not a look that I'd ever received from Alec, from just kind of frustrated with me look, which made me go, "Oh, you want to know? Let's go in your office." So we went in the office and closed the door. And at that point, I told him that I had reason to believe that he had received the funds himself.
You want to dance? We finna dance. Go in that office and shut that door. We're finna
Oh,
talk.
yeah.
I wanted her head to like go from side to side, like, "Oh, you want to know? All right, then let's go to your office."
Let's go. Good for you,
Just
Jeannie.
been like, "Let's go to your office then, bitch." You know?
That's right.
If you notice, most of the time when these people are testifying, like yesterday when Will and Rogan were testifying, and even today when his friend Chris Wilson was testifying, he's very sad and somber and kind of nods and rocks himself back and forth like in a weird comfort thing.
Like Dahmer.
When she testifies, he just dead stares at her like, "You fucking bitch."
Mhm.
Right. Like I'm
disgust on his face.
like
Yeah.
it's in the hall. I'm crushing your head. Look at me. I'm crushing your head. Can you feel that? I'm squeezing it and
Yeah.
crushing
I
your
love
head.
how she like added that tidbit in there too.
Yeah.
Yeah, he gave me an attitude, and I was like, "Yeah, well, let's go in your office then."
Which made me be
Like she didn't need to say that at all, but it's so
No.
great that she did.
No, and I love that there's a few parts in here where she adds incidentally, which I always think is funny because it's just so bougie and I just love it. It's extra, and I live for somebody who's extra.
And that I needed proof that he had not.
Received those fees himself.
Yes,
And I needed proof that they're not.
yes.
What did he tell you?
He told me again, that he assured me that the money was there and that he could get it. And at that point, I said, I'm just trying to do my job. And if I don't get this paperwork and verify that with these questions, I'm not doing my job. He actually acted like he respected that, and again said that that money was there and that he again was trying to decide what he was going to be doing with it.
And did y'all get to conclude that conversation, or just something?
Gail,
We did not. He took a phone call in the middle of that conversation. That phone call was about his father who was in the hospital, that he was going to be terminal, that there was nothing else they'd be able to do for his father. So that changed the mood of the conversation. We quit talking about business, and I immediately asked about him and his family and his dad. And, we got talking as friends at that point, concern over the family.
Meanwhile, Alex is staring her down. Bitch, we ain't friends. We ain't never going to be friends. We may have been friends at one point, but we ain't finna be friends again. Thank you, Gail. That was very sweet. I appreciate that, babe. She's not trying to, look at this. The friendship door is closed.
Yeah, he's like, we're not friends.
No. Listen, Jeannie, we're not friends. We're not friends in the courtroom. We're not friends on the Twitters. I blocked you from Facebook. You're not on my Snapchats. No more. I'm unfriending you for real.
I mean, really, she's the reason, between her and the paralegal, they set everything in motion,
She brought his house down.
Mm-hmm.
She kept pulling that string, and now Alex ain't got no sweater.
And that's really bold too, because everyone was scared of them. You know what I mean? Like they were really, really scared of them.
That's a good point, Kate. It really is. because pretty much everybody sort of folded around the Murdaugh. Like they were allowed to do things that other people wouldn't be allowed to do. Like I have to say it, nothing that Paul did means that make him deserve the way that he died. That was no, that's not how we handle things in a civilized, society. I can barely say those words because, as you can tell, I'm quite uncivilized and barely have any couth. But even I know that's not the way to handle things. He didn't deserve what was done to him. But when you watch that video at the boat accident and you see his behavior, and granted, he was like drunker than Cooter Brown. Still, I think he was blackout drunk at that point. He had an air about him that he just didn't take anything seriously. And
that he knew that he felt like he wasn't going to have any repercussions because his family, ran the courts and the police, you know what I mean? He didn't think he would have ramifications because he had them in their corner.
And he wasn't getting any.
Fairness, at 19, I wouldn't think I'm going to have ramifications either. I mean, but I can only imagine add on the money and the quote unquote power. So I'm just saying, like, I think that, I mean, I would have walked around just like that.
But if it had been me,
when police come around at that age, I'd be quiet.
No, let me tell you what would have happened. None of us would have been walking around because our asses would have been in handcuffs. That's where it started, right then. He shouldn't have been allowed to be walking
and getting a breathalyzer. They didn't
correct.
Test
exactly. He got preferential treatment. None of us would be acting like that. We wouldn't be walking a damn place because we'd be handcuffed. I mean, he reeked of alcohol. They could all smell it coming off of him. And that's what I'm talking about. Not like the whole, I mean, like literally walking around. Do you know what I mean? Yes, he was smug, and no 19-year-old can think 10 years into the future or whatever. That's not the part I'm talking about. I'm talking about the fact that he was cock of the walk down there at that boat accident. And he shouldn't have been walking anywhere, because if it had been anybody else, they would have been handcuffed. And it's unfortunate.
For sure.
But he didn't deserve what happened to him at all. To be damn near decapitated from the inside. I mean, I know that the prosecution or the defense talked about it a lot, but for serious, that's exactly what happened.
Shortly left, so it briefed and cut down the conversation.
All right, you come in there asking for proof where that money was because you had reason to believe he took it, and then the conversation ultimately got short.
Hey, Chip Tracy, we love this lady too.
Did you have a conversation later in the day with Ellen?
I did. Around 4:00, my phone rang, and I remember that because I had been under the impression Alec was going to leave and go to the hospital or leave to deal with his father. And around 4:00, my office extension rang, and at that point, he was asking me for some information on his 401k balances because he stated he was working on some financials for the hearing on the boat accident that was later in the week.
There was a hearing later in the week, and he was working on financials for the boat accident.
Correct.
Happy early birthday, and 5, 6, 7, 8.
Did that strike you as odd?
Do we know what the
That
hearing
he called and asked me? No, he'd asked me about.
Like the upcoming hearing that he had, was it like to decide if it was going to trial or like, do we know like what?
I don't actually know.
I don't remember.
Because the way that it is talked about in Low Country and Dynasty of Murder, all they say is that it's Paul's trial that was supposed to start.
Yeah.
And that would not be
maybe like a prelim. Maybe it was like a prelim or something like that, where they
a pre-trial, like the pre-trial hearing. I mean, because to be fair to Paul, yes, it was put off for 2 years, but one of those years was the vid. So I don't know how much influence they actually had in getting it put off for 2 years. I mean, but I don't know what stage of the game they were in, because a lot of that they can do. Those are just quickie check-ins, but I don't I'm not exactly sure. I'm going to look into that and find out.
Because I think that would play a big part too, like depending on what stage it was at. Like, you know, if it was just like a motions hearing or something, I feel like there might not be urgency. But if like it was about to start, like things were about to get going, then maybe that would be different, you know?
So Jenny says he had to provide discovery, probably a show cause hearing. Really? You think it was just a show cause? I'm kind of curious. Maybe it was a show cause. Maybe they had managed to put it off for that length of time. And that's what was because I don't know. I'm going to look into it more just to make sure. All right. That's a good question. That was a good question, Kate.
So, and I would be the one to give him the 401k. So it didn't surprise me that he's calling him, asking me about that. But I was surprised that he was in the building working on it.
And why was that?
I just thought he was leaving a deal with his father.
Because that interrupted the prior conversation.
That's right.
Is that the last conversation you had with him?
It is.
You find out about the murder?
Okay, wait. So Jenny, it's the civil suit. So why do then they refer to it in those, which I know this is probably like a ridiculously rhetorical question. I don't know how you would know the answer to this, but why do they refer to it as Paul's trial in Low Country? Like the criminal trial? Like where was the criminal trial at this point?
I'm pretty sure it was it was coming up like soon because I do remember them discussing that. Hold on,
Yeah. All right. She says Mallory's. Yeah, that I know that there was the civil suit, but the way that they talk about it in those two documentaries is as if it's not the civil suit. Because they distinctly refer to the civil suit just like that as the civil suit, but I distinctly remember them referring to it as Paul's trial. I don't know. Let's keep going. We're gonna watch her for just a little bit more because then we're gonna go over to the lawyer who testified.
I'll see if I can find it while we're watching.
Thanks, babe. Okay.
Murders.
I initially found out through the rumor mill around 10:30 or 11 o'clock the evening of them.
What, babe? Sorry, T. I didn't hear you start talking.
No, it's okay. I'm digging around too. So if you find it, let me know.
Okay. You girls are great. I'm the worst at digging around. Well, I'm working the YouTube. That's my contribution.
But I did not get confirmation until I received a text from the partner roughly 2:30 or 3 o'clock in the morning.
Were you shocked by that?
Yes.
Scared?
Yes.
Worried?
Yes.
Worried for Alec?
Worried for everybody. Yes. Especially Alec.
In the wake of the murders, do you know if the hearing that was later that week got canceled?
It did get canceled.
That was a hearing in the boat case where he's personally a defendant?
That's my understanding, yes.
In the wake of the boat case, did you and the partners have a discussion about what to do about getting to the bottom of these Ferris fees?
We did. We did not the week of the murders because pretty much our office shut down the week of the murders, and then his father also passing away. But when we got back around to it, Lee and Mark Ball and I were the ones doing the discussion. Lee decided that he would call Chris Wilson himself directly and try to get the information, and Lee took over from there.
In the wake of the murders, did anyone want to bring that up to Alec again?
No, nobody wanted. Alec was distraught and upset and not in the office much, and nobody wanted to harass him about nothing that we thought was really missing. We had several months till the end of the year to clear it up, so we were not going to harass him at that point in time.
So that part just got stopped in its tracks, is that true?
Yes, Lee took over calling Chris Wilson and trying to pursue it.
All right, and when was that? You said in July sometime?
Yes, probably early July.
All right, and what was the result of that?
Lee said, and you could speak to him more clearly, but Lee said Chris Wilson got off the phone pretty quick with him, which was surprising because apparently Chris Wilson has the gift of gab. But again, Chris assured Lee that it was there.
All right, ultimately.
All right, what, Teresa?
So he was set to have to hand over. So the lawsuit was against Buster, Alec, Paul.
Oh, that's right.
And
Buster, because Buster provided the ID. Okay.
right.
Sorry.
And Alec's dad, but Alec's dad was actually dropped from the suit in 2019, apparently. So he was supposed to be.
And they sued the convenience store too.
Right. They don't name that's for that one in here though. But they said they were supposed to be delivering. Alex and Buster had to fully respond to previous requests for financial documents. They were requiring Parkers to produce evidence in the case, asking the judge to have the case moved to Beaufort County. Now, the financial stuff, they had to provide a list of checking, savings, and 401k accounts, a list of all investments, net worth statements, and tax returns.
Do you think he hid money in Paul's accounts?
That'd be stupid. Paul was also a defendant, so if he hid money
maybe he did before. Well, yeah, like back in the maybe he hid money under Paul's name, and then when it all started coming out, tried to get it move it all out of there. It would be stupid. They never set a trial date. It said though, they never got that far.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it wasn't there. It was they were just turning over stuff and having to answer to the previous request for documents. It says.
Right. I believed you, Jenny. I was just confused because of the way that they talk about it in that in those two documentaries, and it confused me, and because it didn't make sense. So I couldn't figure it out, and but I get it now. And yes, he was out on bond. So that's crazy. He hadn't even had a
He
trial
never
date
saw
set.
a day behind a cell ever.
No, he didn't. They took his dadgum mugshot in the courtroom hallway. That's where that mugshot's at, in the courtroom hallway.
Karen, I wonder if he still has money hidden in offshore accounts at this point in time, because they have not been able to account for the money that he stole.
Well, I'll say this. When is that? I wonder when that trial is coming.
What trial?
For the financial stuff.
Buster settled with Mallory's family with their estate or whatever. It was settled with Buster, I think.
No, I mean Alex's other charges that are coming, because he's got pending charges.
You're talking about the 99 financial charges?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. It would have been nice if they tried them first, but they probably couldn't because of time.
Yeah, I wonder when that's going to happen. Please, Lord Jesus, let that shit
I'm
be strange.
pretty sure that the reason they want to bring in the stuff with Gloria is because he already signed that he did take that money.
Mm-hmm. He admitted to it.
Mm-hmm. All right. Go ahead. I'm listening, Kate.
Oh my God, I lost my train of thought.
Sorry.
Sorry. It had something to do with they tried Chris Wilson already, I'm pretty sure. Wasn't that, didn't he have his
No,
trial?
Corey Fleming.
Oh yeah.
Corey Fleming. They got the money from Corey Fleming and the money from whatever the guy's name. I can't remember the guy's name from the liability company, the consultant or whatever, the Forge, but whatever that guy's name was. He was the banker. He wasn't from Forge. He was the banker, but it was their liaison or whatever.
Yeah.
So they said they already got the money from both of them, but have not received a penny back from Alex.
Oh, it was Russell's trial. Okay. I know there was a banker that they just had a trial for, a whole trial about conspiring with Murdaugh, and I guess it was Russell. I thought it was the Chris Wilson guy, but of course he said Russell.
There's just so many different ones.
I know, there really is.
Which is why, look, this is why I find it so preposterous that the intimation is that he was spending money on pills. Get bent, Alec. We all know how pills work, okay? Stop playing with these people out here. You were connected. You knew bankers, you knew lawyers, and you were a fucking personal injury lawyer, which means you knew doctors because you would have doctors to consult. Don't play. I know how the law works, and I also know how the law doesn't work. And I know how criminals do shit. I cover true crime. I've learned some things, sir. Well, stop playing like you didn't have a doctor in your pocket writing you prescriptions.
Yeah, it was Russell. Former Palmetto State Bank CEO Russell Lafitte was allowed to remain free on bail as he awaits sentencing at a later date. Wasn't there another guy though? I thought it was. Who's the one who was the godfather of Paul?
Oh God.
Or
That's
maybe
that's Corey Fleming.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's
someone else in between.
There's another guy who he made the Gloria's kids sign their estate over to. That guy.
That's Corey Fleming.
Is that Corey Fleming too? Okay. That's what I was thinking, Kate, that there's somebody else.
The boat victims to work with. And then Corey Fleming is also the one who represented Gloria's boys.
Wasn't right.
There a guy named like Chuck or something? I feel like there was a Chuck too. I don't know.
I remember a Chuck, but you could.
I don't remember a Chuck either, but let's not, because listen, we've already got a complicated ass. Can you imagine doing a whiteboard on this case?
Right.
I can't. All right. So now we're going to listen to, this guy had all the ladies in the long crime chat all a flutter because of his nice hair and smooth voice, and I can't even remember his name. But this guy is he represents the real Forge settlement, whatever, annuities, blah, blah, blah. Look at Paul's face, and wow, Alec, you have really you really make some faces, sir. I'm telling you, all that is a toupee.
Buster seemed like really calm, at least for the first day. I was like, he looks so like unaffected by everything.
Well, he wasn't there today.
They said that during the first day of actual testimony, was it testimony or was it opening statements? They said that Buster left the courtroom because he couldn't handle it. But I don't remember now if it was opening statements or if it was.
Oh, it might have been when they were doing the crime scene.
It's whenever it's one of the days that the defense attorney was just going on about the fact that there was only a face left and like saying really crazy stuff.
That would have been the I think that would have been opening statements, but he also has said some things too, like during questioning, he's been kind of but then I don't know, Harpootlian was barely involved today. Although right before this guy gets up on the stand, Harpootlian it's between the last witness and this guy. And he gets up and he says, "Excuse me, Your Honor." And then we're all like waiting for him to say something. And I'm just like, oh my God, 4 hours later, here he comes. And I don't even remember what he said because I was so annoyed. I don't know what he's doing. I need some Valium, apparently. I get too hype about this case.
About consulting to sort of match up the client with an annuity company, and then that money is going to, in the settlement or whatever it is, verdict is going to go from the defendant or the insurer that's paying whatever that is, that verdict or settlement, directly to that annuity company for the benefit of that client.
That is correct.
I used to joke with my husband that when we won the lottery, we were going to bury the cash in tomato cans in the backyard. Is that the same thing?
How long have you been with Forge Consulting doing this work?
It'll be 18 years this summer.
I don't know. My grandparents did that. My step grandparents. They buried all kinds of stuff in their backyard.
You can't trust a bank. Look who they got working for them. Look at the kind of shit they do.
Your involvement with this business, have you gotten to know the defendant, Alec Murdaugh?
I have.
Now all of a sudden the audio is really low.
It bore from a professional relationship, doing work with trial lawyers, conventions, CLEs, things of that nature.
His voice is like butter.
Turned into a friendship born out of business.
And when you say friendship, was it a close friendship or more like a business relationship type of friendship?
I would say a business relationship type of friendship, but one that you would text with and call on occasion and things.
Did you read his Audible books to him? Because I would listen to that.
Did you ever do any structures for any clients that were represented by Alec Murdaugh as a plaintiff's lawyer?
Yes, we did.
All right, and just roughly, you remember how many?
I would probably say around 5.
Every time they do the
did you
structured
ever- what was the
settlement
last
talk,
one you
Kate,
remember
I
at least
think
having
about
some
you
discussion
singing
with
that
them
song.
about doing a structure?
The last one that I remember
I
having
have
discussion
a
with, I believe,
structured
was the
settlement
market
and I
case.
need
Okay, well,
cash
tell me about
now.
that. Did that ever come to
Call
fruition?
Jay.
It did not.
Need
Tell me
some
what
cash now.
We sent over some quotes. We
Goes
got
now.
some information back from
I love that
from the
song.
defendant.
Me too.
He sent us information, a signed option, which I would assume was Mr. Martin's. Sent some information back, and annuities, you have to understand, are priced on a daily market. Sometimes that rate is good for a week or two. I sent several emails back saying, hey, this rate is going to expire. We need to move forward. We need to move forward. And
Ooh, that's a
ultimately,
good idea
closing the
too,
case
Jenny.
cash because we never got a response.
All right, when you say you sent emails asking for a response, who are you sending those to?
I was sending those to Mr. Murdaugh as well as his paralegal, Annette Griswold.
Okay. And so ultimately got no response, so you just closed the file without any services ultimately being provided by.
You know,
Forge
Murdaugh is
Consulting
over there
LLC.
thinking,
correct,
fucking
yes.
Annette. We
Let me
like
show
you,
very
Annette.
quickly what's been marked.
We also
Set
like
at
you, Jeannie.
321 for the in-camera.
You're the heroes. You're the
Hearing.
real MVPs.
I imagine they're gonna have a net up. She didn't testify
To
yet,
the fifth
right?
page of this
No,
exhibit,
mm-mm.
and just see if you recognize that.
No, but
And
the
then you can
state
flip to the
was
next
like,
couple
we,
pages, please.
at the end of
Yes, sir,
the
I
end
did.
of today,
Tell
when
us
they
about
were
that.
making
Just
some
kind of flip
arguments
those.
That's
back
just
and
an
forth,
annuity-
the
it's just
state
an
had a whole
annuitized,
laundry
payment
list of
stream showing
people
when the
they
payment
could
was made.
call.
Okay.
And what the amount is.
And that's kind of the market rate thing you were talking
Yes,
about?
Oh no,
What
Diane,
are the
couldn't.
next documents? Just to remember.
The
You're
next
gonna have an
page is a
orientation event
disclosure
on your
page
when
where
they
we list
if
all
you
our
ever
disclosures, and it appears
they
to be
celebrate your phone if
have
they
been
ever
signed by
celebrate
the
your
owner.
phone.
Okay, keep going. That's the only Forge related documents you see?
Let's see, that's the only Forge related documents. I see. Yes, sir.
All right, let me take that back.
Yep.
All right.
All right, sir. He don't want you manhandling his evidence there, his exhibits.
All right, so that's sort of the annuity schedule, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And then this is the disclosure page you were talking about?
Yes, sir.
And that is Forge generated paperwork typically?
That is correct. Yes.
But this particular structure was never done because.
I'll
you never got
vouch
a
for you,
response
Diane.
from
Don't you
Bob
worry.
Or his office, is that correct?
That is correct.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that, Crystal. Listen to this, y'all. Mary Todd Lincoln carried tens of thousands pinned inside her petticoat. One thing her son used against her when they literally hauled her into court and ruled her insane. I feel like that's the way I want to go.
Generally of
I
what
want to be
people
declared
call the boat drag
insane
case
with
or the boat case as it
literally
relates
tens
to
of
the Lieutenant
thousands
Allen
of
murder?
dollars
Generally,
pinned
yes.
inside my
And just
chonis.
without going specific.
There's a terrible accident happened somewhere down in the low country involving Mr. Murdoch's son and several others, and a young girl passed away.
Were you aware that his son had been charged in that particular case?
I was.
And were you aware that Alec Murdaugh had been sued in a civil matter relating to that?
I believe I was made aware through the news. Yes.
Did you ever have any conversation? Well, let me ask you this first. Is it possible for lawyers to structure fees, not the client, but the lawyer, if they're going to get a big fee from a large recovery and they decide they want the protection of an annuity, can they do that?
Yes, they can.
All right. And how does that work? Kind of the same thing?
It's the exact same manner as if the client were to do it. The check would have to come from the insurance carrier and or the defendant to fund the structured settlement annuity for the lawyer for their fee.
Did you ever have any
This
discussion
is very
with Alec
confusing.
Murdaugh, either before or after the boat case, about structuring any fees that he had received in the case?
We had general conversations about structuring fees, but it would be the same conversation I would have with any attorney, like how you would do it, how you would go about doing it, how checks would be made payable, et cetera.
Did you ever have any specific discussion after the boat case about the boat case and him wanting to structure any fees?
Not that I recall.
I want to take you to September 2021. Did you, around that time, receive a call from Lee Cope?
I did.
All right. And what did Mr. Cope ask you?
He called and asked me if he could, in confidence, give me a list of cases and see if we had any files on them. I told him that'd be fine. I was standing in my driveway. I wrote them down. Got back with him later that evening, let him know that we did not have any of those cases open.
Okay.
You wrote them down. That's not very confidential. That's a paper trail.
Or potential structures.
He had asked me if we had any files at all. Generally, what we will do is if an attorney calls, we will open the case, immediately, just so we have a name associated with the attorney.
And so he gave you a list of names. Did any of those names have any files?
No.
Did he ask you about any banking that Forge Consulting
That is
LLC
sad.
did?
He did.
Crystal?
And what was his question to you?
He asked me if we banked with Bank of America.
And what was your response?
I told him that we had banked with Bank of America, but had not for the last 3 or 4 years.
So what does Alec do? Go open up an account at Bank of America. Big dummy.
Like he should have opened a bank at the same one that they banked with.
Or maybe the same type of bank. I mean, the same, like Wells Fargo or Wachovia. I don't have
I did. He
Wachovia
called me
anymore.
In like a different
following
city
day
or
as well,
something,
Right.
With another list of cases.
And what was his inquiry to you?
Same inquiry. This time, the only one that popped up was the one I mentioned earlier.
I noticed that he doesn't do the Dahmer rock when the jury is out.
There was a file, but it was never completed. And we
Also,
closed it.
Law and Crime got this video of him in
Did you,
court, ugly
ask him at
crying,
this
and
point,
a
or
big
did,
old snot
what was going on? Or why
drop
these
fell out of
inquiries
his
being made?
nose.
I did not.
Did you ultimately find out?
I know.
Why these
I
inquiries
know.
being made?
I'm
Tuesday
perpetually
after
13
lunch.
years old and a boy.
What did you find out?
I spoke with
Because I find boogers and
told me
shit
that
hilarious.
Alex has been using an account called Forge.
My son does too. He throws his tissues at me every time he blows his nose. I'm like,
I'm not that gross, but I mean, somebody blowing a snot rocket on TV in front of God and everybody is funny to me.
Did Forge Consulting have anything?
I'll be
to do
sitting
with
there
that?
watching TV and a tissue just hits me on the side of the head.
Yeah.
I'm like,
So
really?
a couple things real
That's what
quick.
you get with a 7-year-old boy, I guess.
You'll miss it. Though. I miss my boys and all their burps and farts.
Yeah.
All right.
Has been marked as exhibit.
Let's
Please
skip
rise
ahead a
to
little.
Testimony in this in-camera hearing, and I just have you look.
Yeah, I have to
Now
hop
we're
down
gonna
soon to
get
go
to
take care of bedtime.
I figured you would. Thank you for coming
know.
up, Teresa. I
Oh,
always
heck
love
yeah.
having you over here.
I know I was excited when I saw Kate
Tomorrow
was on
we're
your
gonna-
team. I was like, yay!
Yeah, tomorrow we're going to go on Kate's and do a whole recap. So you got to come
Yeah,
over.
if you're
and
not
be on
busy,
camera
come over
too.
there. Probably like 9 o'clock, same time.
Yeah.
9 o'clock
Yeah,
Eastern.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I have a live at 5. So maybe I'll
5 your
come over
time,
5 my time, so that's 8 your guys' time.
8 our
Oh, I
time.
can make
Okay.
it, I can do it a little later. Like
Yeah, we can push it later.
Now we're gonna do. I think we're recapping Tristan Bailey's case because Aiden Fucci's trial starts next week.
I know. You think it'll be
Well-
streamed?
I don't. I don't think it was approved. I don't know. I have to look at my list.
Okay. I don't think it was either, but I'm just curious. Maybe we.
And then,
Jensen got found guilty for the 3rd time.
I know. I was so freaking happy.
Me too.
They
Rat bastard.
said today in the Gannon's case that jury selection starts March 20th, and they expect the trial to start April 3rd.
nice.
So that's the video I've been working on. I'm figuring.
Yeah, but
doing
they got him.
completing my timeline.
Letitia, can you do something to get it pushed up a little further? We're gonna have. Well, we'll have the Murdaugh trial, but you're just coming in at a bad time. There's a lot of April trials.
Didn't Orrin and
That's-
Orson get pushed to like March now?
March.
It's in March,
Mhm.
yep. And then Daybell is freaking April
April.
3rd.
Yeah.
I'm
Crazy
watching.
spring.
I'm watching the recaps of the pretrial hearings in the Vallow Daybell case very intently because there's an issue with some evidence that Chad's lawyers want turned over and they haven't gotten it yet. And the argument by Chad's attorney is, look, if they had this evidence and for 5 months, and that's how long it took them to analyze it, how am I supposed to analyze it in 6 weeks? And whatever report is generated has to be turned over to the state. Like, I won't, and if I go along and I don't examine this evidence or look into it, right, this is going to be an ineffective assistance to counsel appeal, and he would be right to do it, right? And but the third, and probably the one that I think concerned the judge the most, is that Chad waived his right to a speedy trial. Lori did not, and they're getting real close to encroaching on.
Well, I think that's what they're trying to do.
I do too. I think it's intentional. I think they're going to fuck around and find out, quite frankly, and they want the trial severed, and they're trying to do it in a bullshit ass.
This is how they're doing
using
it.
the law to do it.
I kind of want it severed because I feel like we'll get so much more information with it severed. Like,
problem with severing it is that the second one to go is going to use everything from the first.
Yeah.
And so that's the issue there. Not to mention financially, this trial is already going to cost so much money.
Yeah.
But have you guys heard whether they decided if they're going to let audio into the courtroom for Daybell? They're only going to do audio for Stout. They're not doing video.
Aren't they like super strict about it there?
Well, so they it was so stupid because for Daybell they let all the cameras in the courtroom, and then her attorney was like, this is prejudicial, and so then they ruled that there's not going to be cameras in the courtroom for trial. But I'm like, you guys messed up. You shouldn't have had the cameras in there for all the pre-trial stuff,
right?
Yeah,
and let it
that's
in for
gonna
trial.
Suck for Letitia. Only audio.
That's audio. Apparently, they ruled that today that they're not going to have cameras. They're going to have audio.
That's so corny.
So,
it's all right.
I mean,
that doesn't matter. We'll find a way to cover it and make it entertaining.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll find some memes
like,
or some shit that I can
both
put
of
up.
those at the same time. Like, shoot.
Well,
Yeah. It's gonna be a mess.
I think with that, I know that the grandparents, I can't even remember their name right now. I know it, but it's not coming to me.
JJ's grandparents?
Yes.
I don't know. I can't think of it right now either, for whatever reason.
Okay. I can't even, I'm drawing a complete blank, but they petitioned
Mikey, it's all you.
They petitioned the court to have the trial streamed because their argument was that there is a lot of family that is out of town that will not be able to attend the trial. They're not called as witnesses, and they have a vested interest in seeing how this turns out. They cannot travel for various reasons, financial, health, etc. And I think that the judge, I think that he is going to be swayed by that argument, probably above and beyond any other argument. And they understood the need to keep the pretrial hearings on the low and only do like recaps because they need to find an impartial jury. And so, good night, Kez. And so they understood that and were respectful of that and agreed with that with the court. But once the jury is seated, there is then no need to worry about a fair and impartial jury that way. You know what I mean? So they petitioned the court to have it streamed. So we'll see. I feel like the judge is going to change his mind. I think he'll let the trial be streamed.
I don't know why they wouldn't. I mean, and I know all the news outlets too are like adamant that it's against their constitutional right. I think they'll probably end up doing audio is what I think.
You think so?
A date been set for the murders of the West Boys. Yeah, it was set for March 20th, I believe. I can double check. It was pushed back. It was supposed to be starting on 1:30, but they pushed it back, and they have a status hearing, I think, in February, and now it's like March 20th.
Mm-hmm.
So that one got pushed back too. I know. So that's why
you know who else is coming up in April too? Sarah Boone.
Oh yes, she is. Yes, she is.
There's
somebody else coming up. There's somebody else coming up at the beginning of the year too. Hold on, let me look it up real quick.
If I'm not mistaken, I believe Sarah Boone her trial takes place in Hillsborough County, which is Tampa, and that's not that far from me. I think it's not a far drive, but it's a pain in the ass drive because it's a lot of traffic to get from where I am to Tampa because I got to go over the bay. I like saying that. I feel fancy. I have to go over the bay.
I'm scrolling through my list. Oh, the other one that has a hearing at the end of February is Michelle Troconis.
Oh, yes. Oh, Courtney Clennies is coming too.
Oh, yeah, the TikTok.
Mm-hmm. And there's somebody else that I feel like we're forgetting.
I'm scrolling through my list right now.
I know. I feel like there's something we're forgetting too.
There's Aiden Fucci, and then Aiden Fucci's mom is in April.
Megan Boswell's not going to be till 2025. So
Amari Nicholson is also in April. Samuel Olson is supposed to be this month.
Oh, I hate that Teresa Balboa. She pisses me off.
Yep.
Oh,
same.
that's right. I knew. See, I knew we were missing one.
Amber Robertson and Robbie Lyons. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that case of Maya Robertson out of Indiana.
I've heard about it. I just don't remember. Like,
in March. Yeah. Oh, the other one that was supposed to start, you know what, that I haven't actually even heard about that was supposed to already start was Serenity McKinney's. I'm gonna have to look at that one real quick.
Oh wow.
And then
and the Killer Clown one is coming too.
Yeah, Killer Clown's supposed to be, I don't know. I'll be
Sheila
surprised
Keen.
if it actually comes through. Naomi Irions is supposed to be this month.
Who?
Naomi Irion, the one that was
taken. Oh yeah. Oh, that's going to be good. The one who was kidnapped at the bus stop.
Yeah.
That's this month?
It's supposed to be this month, yeah.
Oh,
wow. The other one that's in April is Haley Dunn. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that case.
I remember the name. I just don't remember.
Sean Atkins and Haley Dunn. That's supposed to be in April. Sarah Boone's in April. Taylor Shabiznis is supposed to be.
That's it. Shabiznis.
And then Caitlin Armstrong's supposed to be in June.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Let me see.
This is gonna be busy.
The beginning of this year is just packed.
Good.
Yeah, I think that's all I have. I'm gonna look up Serenities though, because that one should have started. Let me see if it did. Serenity McKinney was the very first live I did on my channel when I created my new channel.
I remember that. And look how far you've come, babe. I'm so proud of you. Both of you girls.
February 11th of 2022. So February 11th is technically my 1-year anniversary of.
Oh, wow.
Day after Dave's birthday.
How do I find out the dates and stuff? I literally sit here and I Google all of them, and then I have alerts on some of the cases that I can. I have like Google alerts, and then I have like court alerts depending on what case will let me. So I actually have a spreadsheet that I keep.
Of course you do. I have a fucking spiral notebook, and you're over here with the whole ass Excel spreadsheet.
No, this is actually just a Google Doc. Actually,
it's okay, good. Not as fancy. It's still fancier than a freaking spiral notebook, and it's not even a new spiral notebook. I had to rip my kids' geometry notes from 2 years ago out of it.
I had to whip out the Google slides for Murdaugh because I was like, how can I present this? With so many different cases in one case.
You have to.
I whipped out the slides.
I'm still working on Stevens because every time I go to check something, I remember something that came so there is the whole question about where Randy Murdaugh, because that's Alex's brother, where he was, Randall Murdaugh, during this whole situation with Stephen, and when exactly did he contact Stephen Smith's family. In the reports, the official reports, Sandy Smith relays that it was about 2 days after Stephen's murder it was the second call. So it was the same day, but it was right after they got the notice. They were told about Stephen. Okay. And that was at around 10:30, according to the coroner. That's when he says he made the notice. But in Low Country, Sandy says, and I believe her, that it was earlier that they were notified and earlier that he called. And Proctor says that he was out at the scene trying to take pictures.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I had to which then makes me have to rework everything. You know what I'm saying? Like to cut stuff out that I wanted to say, and because I want to cover his case well, because dadgummit, that kid deserves justice. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe somebody will stumble on my channel just for whatever reason, and it'll spark something they don't know that they know, because that's usually how these cases get turned, go from cold to being solved, is something that somebody doesn't know that they know. And if my little channel, and I don't even want credit for it, but I feel like if that's what happens, that would be such an amazing thing. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, I don't care if that's what it does. I just want to cover his case properly and thoroughly, but not like make it so long that you're like, Jesus fuck, Jen, shut up.
So was Randy the DA at that point? Like, did he have a reason?
He was coming to represent them as a personal injury. They had not even begun to they had barely known that it was there. See, Sandy had heard on the radio that there was a body on Sandy Run Road.
Yeah.
And mother's intuition, because Stephen didn't come home the night before, she knew it was her son. And then they got a hold of her husband, Joel, and that's when they made the notification. And they didn't even, he came to them, but Randall knew Joel because he had represented him in some other type of personal injury case. And I know it, but I can't remember it right this moment. You know what I mean? And so it wasn't like he was an absolute stranger, but, it's odd for him to be saying, well, I'll represent you in this case for free, when they didn't even know really what was going on. I mean, there was so much conflict between the different agencies at the scene about what they were looking at. Yeah. So it just made no sense, and they
were sure that it was
it was a homicide. They thought it was a gunshot. Yeah. They thought he was shot in the head. And then you'll have to wait for my video. But first, Coolest Reviews and I are going to go over Kai, the hatchet-wielding hitchhiker. And I've already put off the video and him for, but I promised it would be this Sunday. So I've put Steven's video on pause, and I'm going to work on Kai. So that's, what we all have to look forward to. Friday night over at Kate's.
Oh yeah, and you know what? I'll set it for 9:30, and then I usually do 9:30 anyway. I just, so we'll do 9:30, and if you want to stop by Criminality, it'll be like, a little while after.
Yeah, because I want to I want to go to both.
Yeah,
I want to.
So that way, we can go there, and then.
Yeah, I want to know. I wonder. I should have looked that up while I was looking up stuff and see if they're gonna stream Aiden Fucci trial.
When does that start? The Aiden Fucci trial?
The
6th of February. It's my parents' anniversary.
Oh, wow.
How old am I? 46.
They're only gonna have 6 jurors.
What?
Why?
Yeah, it's the state of Florida. Come on,
okay,
Jen.
I only live here. I ain't from here. I'm from Texas. In Texas, we do 12 with some alternates just to be sure, just to be on the safe side. 6, and he's being charged and tried as an adult, right?
Yep, and he's gotten in so much trouble locked up.
I heard.
Yeah, but I feel like 6 jurors isn't fair. It's like less people to,
That's what the prosecutors. Yeah, the prosecutors want it. Yeah, Florida, you can have 6 or 12, and so the prosecutors petitioned for 6, and the defense came back and said, no, we want 12, and the judge said, no, they can have 6. So it's definitely pro-prosecutor because you have less people to have to convince of guilt.
This is my thing. I always wondered if I were ever on trial for something like this, and it was a complex case, if I would trust 12 jurors or if I would go with a bench trial. Because I think there are certain cases, especially complex cases, that it's better to go with a bench trial. Not that his case counts as one of those, but when there's a lot of not circumstantial, but a lot of
So he pled not guilty?
Yeah.
Fucci?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he pled not guilty.
Huh.
I didn't know that in Florida you could have a choice between 6 or 12. Makes sense though.
I wonder what their story's going to be.
That's how we sell our beer here, 6 and 12.
Well, technically Monday is starts jury selection, so you got to give that a couple days typically.
So I'm thinking, what county is it going to be in, Teresa? Do you know?
Let me look.
Okay. Well, I thought you had it open.
Yeah, I was looking at I was trying to find out if it's going to be live streamed. St. Johns County.
I don't know where that is. Let me look it up.
The trial is set to be held in St. Johns County despite Fucci's attorneys trying to have it moved.
That'll be interesting to hear what they try and come up with that, like their defense.
I don't even. The only thing I can even come up with is that his age.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, he's on.
Maybe like
a
a self-defense thing, maybe.
No way. No way.
I mean, it wouldn't fly, but I'm saying like that's the only thing I can think that they might go. Like,
it's gonna be interesting. And then you have his mom washing the blood off of his jeans.
Yeah. It's on the coast.
I mean, didn't he stab her like a bunch of times? Like,
she had like 100. She had 100 in her head.
Yeah.
Like how? Like, there's no way you can say that was self-defense. I mean, but like that's the only thing I can really think of them. Or insanity or something. I don't know. Have they asked to get it, like have him like test it and stuff?
I don't know if they ended up doing any type of testing to see. It wasn't like hugely publicized, like that he was trying to plead like incompetent, but he did in one of the court hearings when it was on Zoom. He did the whole like Letitia Stout where he was like trying to catch butterflies and he was like talking.
Oh my God. I forgot about that. Yes. Something wasn't he doing something with crayons?
He just does weird stuff. Trying to make it like he is insane. But I don't think they ever had. Let me look real quick just so I don't speak out of turn.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to hear what route they take for defense.
I don't remember ever hearing of him having a competency hearing.
They weren't with anybody else, right? It was just him and her.
Just him and her, yeah. Yeah, he was like 14, she's like 13.
Yeah, there ain't no getting out of that.
Isn't he? Is he? No, he's not. Well, is he? Because sometimes they can. Is he up for the death penalty?
No, he can't have the death penalty because he's a minor. No matter whether he's tried as an adult, you can't put him to death.
That's what I thought, and I had argued that at some point, and then somebody said no. There are some cases where they allow it.
Back in the day,
I don't think so. The Supreme Court ruled on that.
Yeah, back in the day, they would put him to death, but they said no, not possible.
Well, Florida, there was, and his case is not the same anymore. Christian, I cannot remember his last name. 12 years old, accused of killing his brother, and truth be told, it's his mom that threw him under the bus. He had no idea what was going on. I don't even think he actually did it. I think she did. And because she failed to render aid, all the stuff, right? I think what happened was an actual accident. And I really think the person who's legally responsible is the mother. Because when the boys were playing around, the younger one got hurt. And it was a delay in in getting him any type of medical help. That's what actually led to his death. But anyway, he was like 12. He was the youngest one ever, and they were going to try him as an adult. He was so young and little that they had to make adjustments for the handcuffs. They had to make adjustments because he was being held in big boy jail alone in his own cell.
Well, that's like Aiden now.
Yeah, but this was a kid. 14 is still a kid too, but 12 is really a kid.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's 15 now, but so in 2005, in March of 2005, the Supreme Court ruled it was unconstitutional to serve capital punishment on anybody under 18.
See, I thought that's what it was, and somebody just was vehement, and this was a long time ago, probably ever before YouTube, I was wrong about it, and I just
got tired. Probably didn't know that it changed.
It was after 2005 because I was arguing after my youngest was born. I mean, not that I took like time apart with, and that's how I mark it. I wasn't an argumentative asshole prior to my youngest daughter being born. And then afterwards I became one. It's just, I remember it for some reason that way. I don't know.
I wrote a paper on the death penalty, on death sentences versus life in prison. And part of it had to do with juveniles. So I remembered that it was not they can't do it, but I couldn't remember when it was actually changed.
I wonder if A&E will ever bring back that show, Kids Who Kill, because
They
I
should.
found that one to be fascinating, because there is a real argument to be made. Can someone and I'm not talking about, because the law is the law. It doesn't really have a whole lot to do with the circumstances, right? They're not super flexible that way. So are there some crimes that can be committed by juveniles? And I'm talking about the worst crime, the crime that would land you in prison for the rest of your life. Can some of those juveniles be rehabilitated? Can they be fixed? And should we be locking them up for the rest of their lives? You know what I mean? It's an interesting argument.
I think they
their
need to
brains
do
aren't
more
developed.
brain scans on people, because a lot of people who have who kill have problems with their prefrontal cortex, like what's it called, tumors, or they were severely abused as a child, or their like brains not developing correctly, or like Dahmer, he was under anesthesia for too long. If you look at most,
well, we'll
serial
never
killers,
know if anything was going on with Dahmer's brain, because freaking Jeffrey, what's his dad's name?
Yeah, but they did say after he was under anesthesia for too long, he was never the same after that. So there's a good chance he could have had some brain damage. And if you look into a lot of serial killers, a lot of them, Ed Kemper, I think, had a tumor on his prefrontal cortex.
Here's Kate's channel, you guys. Oh shit, I almost hit end broadcast instead of enter in the kit. That would have been a nightmare.
Don't do that.
No.
Somebody asked if Letitia's case is a death penalty case. I've learned a lot. Colorado got rid of the death penalty, so she would be eligible, except for Colorado no longer has death penalty cases.
But doesn't it count if she wasn't arrested before?
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, because I've heard that she's
they were all changed over to life without parole.
It's unfortunate that they can't prove that they think that Gannon was already no longer living when she got here to Florida, because had he been living when he got here to Florida, she absolutely would be eligible for the death penalty. Florida doesn't fuck around. Neither does Texas. I can't see Texas or Florida ever getting rid of the death penalty ever.
I don't either.
You're
I go
welcome.
back and forth on the death penalty as a whole. There's so many pros and cons to it that I'm not one way or the other.
I think I am not one of those people that likes to take and paint with a big broad brush. I think each case is individual.
Yeah, I agree.
And should be looked at individually. There are circumstances. Yes.
Yeah, I struggle with it being like we give the death penalty, and I'm gonna have to hop off after this, but I'm gonna leave you on my final thoughts.
Okay.
I struggle with the death penalty because we use it typically for people who commit murder. And not always are the circumstances around the murder enough for somebody, in my opinion, to have the death penalty. But we have SOs that are out there, and most of the time, and I'm going to go with like 99.9% of the time, there is no rehabilitation for that kind of crime.
No.
And yet
it's a preference.
Yes, we don't. You can't change that about a human being. It's like, it would be like, okay, so something like a serial killer obviously has like a taste for it. You know what I mean? But I don't know. I think that there's a lot of times that we misuse the death penalty and we don't use it on circumstances that I think would benefit us.
I think you're right. The only problem I have, I agree with everything you said, and this is my other problem with the death penalty. I think the death penalty affords the person a luxury that they didn't afford their victim or victims, which is knowing when you're going to die, which allows you time to set things right, to say the things that you want to say to the people that you want to say them to, or not, but you still have a choice. Their victims, I promise you, never thought in 11 million years that day was going to be their last day. And I said this even with the Idaho 4. Let's say that Jack in the Box was from that night. As much as I love an ultimate cheeseburger, I'm telling you right now, if I had my choice And I think those kids too, if they did eat Jack in the Box, that they would not choose that for their last meal. Do you know what I mean? And that's my other issue with it. It's not a deterrent, and that has been shown repeatedly. And it's extremely costly because they get automatic appeals. And even if they don't want the appeals, they have to go through a whole process, Eileen Warnos, to stop the appeals. Like she was sane enough to be tried, right? But then when she said, all right, you know what? I'm done appealing. I'm not going to win my appeals. Let's just get this show on the road and get it over with. All of a sudden then, oh, Eileen Warnos is nuts. We better check and make sure, right? Because she's not competent to make this decision. She was the same person that was tried. Eileen Warnos was, in my opinion, I think she was a paranoid schizophrenic. But anyway, that's not the point. But she was mentally unhealthy. But whatever, it is what it is. I just feel like you don't give the people that are sentenced to death get a luxury that they didn't afford their victims. And that's my big thing that I have a problem with. One of them. So.
Yeah, I agree.
Do we want to watch this lawyer, you guys? I know, Tracy, you have to go, babe.
I do. I have to go get the littles to bed. But thank you for letting me come up and hang out with you two. This is awesome.
Letting you? Are you kidding?
Hanging with us.
Thanks for hanging out with us. It's so.
All right. Well, I guess I'll see you guys mañana.
All right.
All right, babe. Bye.
All right. You two have a good one.
You too,
babe.
Night.
Night.
It's so weird being on the opposite end. It's usually me that's telling Teresa, oh no, here's the reasonable doubt. But now
I get a little wary about the death penalty only because the more I listen to cases, it's not all of them, but there has been a lot that you would be surprised. Sometimes they got like really shoddy evidence that they like pass off as like this great evidence. You know what I mean? And then you'll find out like it really wasn't that accurate or it wasn't that good or all the cases where, circumstantial. I feel like if it's a circumstantial case,
yes,
that the death penalty should be out of the question. Just because
it's not that circumstantial evidence isn't evidence or it's not strong evidence, but we've come a long way forensically. Yeah. And so I agree with you. And I had my friend George Jarrett on this he covered the West Memphis 3. He also covered one of, oh gosh, it's gonna drive me nuts now. Remember Henry Lee Lucas and how he confessed to all these crimes? It was the death of one of the girls in the very beginning. She was married and her sister was going to spend the night, and for the life of me I cannot remember her name right now. And I'm sorry if her family is listening. I know who she is. I remember your sister and your daughter. I just can't think of her name right now. But we were talking about it, and we were talking about what we think there should be professional jurors.
Yeah.
Because I think I always am interested when the jury, especially in these bigger cases, which that's the only time anybody asks the jury, but when they're interviewed after they render their verdict, I'm always interested in the weight that they give certain evidence. Like evidence that you think would get so much weight gets hardly any. You know what I mean? Yep. And I think that it would, and to have somebody or a group of people start with the true crime community, not all of us, we're not all created equal. I'm just going to say that. But okay. But for those of us who do understand the finer points of forensics and a little bit of the law, those are the people that I would want on my jury.
Because there's so many people who just jump on the guilty narcissist bandwagon because you just want justice, but you don't and the media will hype up somebody And you really think like, oh, it's because you hear it over and over again. And some people will just become convinced. I mean, I hear the word narcissist thrown around so much in the true crime community. It makes me bananas. I'm like,
I
how
thought
do
it
you
was
know
just
this
the
person?
me, right? Like, how do you, this person said 2 sentences and boom, right away, narcissist.
Yeah, he's such a narcissist. He, he must have been beating his wife or whatever, and it's like,
right.
You don't know these people. You just,
I don't like, they say Kohberger is a narcissist, and he very well may be, but what do we? No, I don't remember the Cody. Maybe I do. Let me look it up. I've learned a lot. Sorry, I wasn't ignoring you, babe. But yeah, what was that out in the driveway? I don't know what you're asking me, babe. I don't remember what I was talking about when you asked me that question. But yeah, maybe he is a narcissist. But our Dr. B has given those types of tests. And I guarantee you and promise you that whenever she evaluates somebody in that capacity, it's not 2 sentences that she listens to and she's, boom, this is what's wrong. I mean, even if you look at like Amber Heard, when her trial, and she was evaluated by Dr. Scandalous Muffins, it was hours that she was there. And then that's just administering the tests. Then you have to compile all of that data and give the result. So I don't understand how people can just be like, oh yeah, he's totally a narcissist. I don't even know.
It makes me insane. And then, they'll just jump, like there's so many people who just jump on the bandwagon and don't actually pay attention to the evidence. And it's so important to critically think in this like kind of situation. For instance, oh my God, I keep losing my train of thought. So hold on, I'll think about it.
I've learned a lot. Is Cody Posey the kid who killed his family and they worked on Sam Donaldson's ranch? Is that who that is?
All right. So I had a friend. I was real big. Guys, don't come for me. But I was real big about this on the Barry Morphew case because so many people jumped to like, oh, he's a narcissist,
right?
Blah, blah, blah. And look, I am not victim blaming at all. But I'm saying if you actually look at like his life, he was working 2 jobs. Like he had a job.
Mm-hmm.
He owned a business. He was working 2 jobs. He was busy. I mean, starting a new business in a new area is very time consuming. And takes a lot of work. And then working a second job on top of that. I think he was very generous with his daughters. And I didn't see him as a narcissist. Let me just say that. And everybody was like, oh my God, he's a narcissist, blah, blah, he's a cheater. Da, da, da. But like, then it came out, it was like the other way around. And it was like, just hating on him, but nobody knew him personally or knew anything.
Like you're not saying that you're not victim shaming and saying that Suzanne deserved what she got.
No,
but what
never.
You're saying is don't
they
be so
didn't
quick
have
to
enough.
label him a narcissist. We don't have. I agree with you.
I mean, he got like, I like from what I like his life looked like to me. He didn't come off as a narcissist to me. Narcissists, don't have feelings or I don't know, he just didn't come off that way to me.
You didn't get that impression from him.
No,
but you're also not trying to diagnose him either, which I always find interesting. How you're right, how quickly people will say, prime example, Kohberger, he's a narcissist. The man has said one word, literally, yes. That's what he said. That's the sum total of all of the things that we've heard come out of that man's mouth. Yes. And all he was doing was answering if he understood his rights. And all he said was yes. I think he also may have, exactly. I think he also may have said, but isn't like when they were asking about the attorney and he thought he had an attorney. Don't I have, isn't she, like something to that effect? That's not enough to diagnose him in any way, shape, or form. I'm very curious about what's happening in his what's coming up right now. There was something filed recently, and I'm curious about that. I'm curious about the state's response to the discovery request. Because I think people forget that discovery works both ways.
Yeah.
And
in the Morphew case, the evidence was terrible. They had the sniffing dogs picked up her scent at the location. Then they tried to like not have the guy come up and testify because it would have made them look bad, but the judge made him come up anyway. And then the pings all over the house where he was supposedly chasing chipmunks, that their expert literally emailed them and was like, it's not that accurate. It could be caused by static drift. But like the way they presented it was like, oh my gosh.
Like it was the nail in the coffin.
Like it was a nail in the coffin. Yeah. And I look at it a little different because we have a roofing business.
Oh,
you would be surprised, but a lot of roofers dump trash in dumpsters, and they'll do multiple ones because if you throw too much trash in one dumpster and you get caught on camera, if you throw a little bit in there, like whatever, they don't say anything. But if you go and throw a ton of your crap in the dumpster, they'll
fine you.
Yeah. So there's people who do it all the time, roofers, especially on the weekend. And believe me, if you just start a new business in a new area, you're working weekends, holidays, Mother's Day, whatever. You know what I mean? We'd be working on Christmas Eve. Yeah. And like they go to multiple trash cans and will dump the stuff because they don't want to pay the fee at the dump, or, you know, it's the weekend and it's not open and they have to go load up from another job. Like there was just so much reasonable doubt for me. And I just like, they played it out like all this evidence was so like a nail in the coffin, and it wasn't at all.
And it's also a good example, Kate, of why we don't like with this whole Idaho 4 and people wanted an arrest within 48 hours.
Why you don't rush
it? You don't want that because a rushed investigation and a rush to charge, you end up.
That's all Linda Stanley's fault in that thing. She wanted it to be on Mother's Day and make a big spectacle of it. Can't stand her.
That's another thing. Like and just, you know, I love talking about true crime, and I am fascinated by if it is Kohberger, and do I believe that it's more likely than not that it is him? Yes. However,
they have crappy evidence.
I need to see what all the evidence is.
So far, it's crap. Like from the arrest affidavit, they don't have a license plate to say.
No, they can't nail that to be his car to the exclusion of all others based on a license.
22,000 Elantras. Now, I'm not saying I don't think he did it. Like I'm just saying there's 22,000 Elantras. They don't have a license plate. His phone wasn't there. He could have been driving, you know, through or whatever. I mean,
there's all kinds of reasonable doubt areas.
Yeah, somebody could have stole his knife.
Just based on exactly. I mean, we definitely, if we just go on what's in the probable cause affidavit, it's not all that strong.
No.
But I do think I'm sure they do have more. I want to know what this comment is about. It's driving me nuts. Did I talk about a driveway?
I don't know. I don't remember a driveway, but I do have it. So listen to this. My friend, because I was so like, when the Morphew case was going on, I was so adamant about how the evidence was not good. And that was like my case that really is like my shiz, like how like Memphis is for you. That's for me. And I think I just really got into that case because of the dynamics of like how the police and it was all falling apart, and it was the worst. They put together that case so bad. It was terrible. And it was the first time I've ever really seen like a prosecution just crumbling. They didn't do a good job at all. Like everything. And it kind of shocked me because I was like, wow, I've never seen like this be so bad, you know? And my friend was like, I'm so glad that you actually like speak, you know, don't jump on the bandwagon. Now her dad And I'm not saying I thought he did it or not. I just didn't think the evidence is good. That's all I'm saying.
Right.
But,
And that's important though, Kate.
Yeah.
It matters. The strength of the evidence. I mean, that's
Yep.
part of all of it. Hello.
Well, her dad, right? There was this, all right, so there was this little girl. I think her name was Sophia. She was sitting on her porch doing homework.
Mm-hmm.
And she got abducted. And she was found in like a creek wrapped in a blue tarp with some rope, a little bit later. And they immediately zeroed in on this guy. I think his name was Carl Roche or something like that. They zeroed in on him. He was a neighbor and he had like a van with the curtains in it or whatever. And the reason why they thought it was him was because he had a similar tarp, which who doesn't have a friggin' blue tarp in their garage? You know what I mean? Like everybody has.
I have one. It's in my shed.
Yeah. And similar rope. But I mean, that's, that's what they sell at Home Depot. That's what everybody gets. So they thought it was him. And then they looked in his car. And this is a true story. You can look it up. I'll send you the guy's name.
Okay.
They look in his car and they found purple flakes. Supposedly she was wearing purple nail polish that day. So they sent the purple flakes to the DNA expert to test them. And the DNA expert was so blindsided, like by wanting justice for the case, that she didn't even test it. She sent it back saying it was a match because she was sure it was this guy.
Oh, wow.
And he was put in jail, right? And then 2 more girls were kidnapped and killed because it was a serial killer. And they got the wrong guy because that DNA person, wasn't, you might be qualified to do DNA testing, but you have to have critical thinking skills and can't just, want justice so bad that you're like, oh, let me just not even test this and say it's the guy.
Right, exactly.
Mm-hmm. And he got off once the lady admitted that's what she did, but she didn't even get in trouble.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
You would think she would get criminally. Yeah, Carl Roche. Here, I'll send you. It's spelled. Hold on. Maybe I got it wrong. Carl Sophia. Here we go.
Let's check it out.
On afternoon Monday, September 9th, 1996, Sophia, Sofia Silva, went outside to do her homework on the front steps in her family's home in Virginia's Spotsylvania County. Then she was gone. So like I said, they did forensics on his van. Purple flake in Roche's van that appeared to be a match to similar fibers taken from the corpse. You've got him, the forensic investigator declared. He was charged with Sophia's murder, and prosecutors went about preparing a case against him. The circumstantial evidence appeared strong and seems as if they would easily prove it was the killer. So some of the ones don't mention the DNA lady, but she is the reason why. You can find it, but sometimes they mention it and sometimes they don't. I don't know why, but she definitely never tested it and told them that it was a match. It's on the ID channel too. But her name is Sophia Silva if you want to look it up. And that's how crazy, that's how scary it is to think about that, you could be completely innocent and because people just want justice and they'll be blinded by that, and whoever the media is talking about, they'll just be like, oh yeah, that's him, without even really looking at it.
That is scary.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean?
She should have been locked up for that. I mean, not only that,
she should have had some damn charges for sure. Come on.
Yeah, they may have found the killer, or they would have been looking for somebody else and possibly prevented another kid dying, But that was just so crazy to me. Like, I've never heard anything like that. Like someone, like
Yeah.
DNA or whatever.
Well, I always found it interesting that in the West Memphis 3 case, Lisa Savakias, she's the criminalist. She testified at both of the trials and did a lot of the fiber analysis and stuff. She was so when the boys were found, obviously they were sent for autopsy, their clothes were collected, and she found fibers and hair on their clothes. When Damien, Jason, and Jesse were arrested, she went to the crime she was part of the search warrant, and she collected clothing that she thought would match the fibers that she had found. And that never sat right with me.
That's crazy.
I've never heard of that before. Mm-mm. They're supposed to be kept separate, like you have one, why would that's for law enforcement and crime scene.
Yeah. Why are you up in there doing law enforcement's job?
Exactly right. Exactly.
And did they let those pieces of clothing go into evidence?
Yes.
Oh, hell.
That's the fibers they talk about that belong to Damien. But what they don't tell you is the full truth, where those fibers came from. Mm-hmm. One of them was a Garanimal shirt for a 4-year-old.
Yeah.
Which was manufactured at Walmart, for Pete's sake. Everybody shops at Walmart. It's not, and what they don't tell you about the fiber evidence is none of the fibers that were ever recovered match anything specifically directly belonging to Damien, Jason, or Jesse. Not only that, but the fibers that do match aren't so unique that they can be attributed to one source to the exclusion of all others. And that always irritated me. I made a huge point whenever I covered that case to tell all of the things, good, bad, or indifferent. I told it all. But anyway, I guess we've been on here, 3 hours. I never go this long. I'm usually tired of myself by 3 hours, but you're right. So.
Same. But when you're having good conversation, time
it goes quick.
Realize.
So I'm going to email you tomorrow so that we can get some stuff together for what we want to recap. You know what I mean? Now,
okay.
Because I think when we do the recap, I think it'll make people, I think it'll be easier to follow the prosecution's case up until this point.
Yeah.
And I'm curious what they're going to do tomorrow, because I know that they're going to they're going to start at 9:30. The jury isn't going to be brought in till 11:30. They have two hours tomorrow.
For financial stuff?
Yeah. And the judge, I don't know if after the, thank you, Tony. I don't know if after the morning, if that's going to be it, and he's going to be prepared to make a ruling. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe Monday or something. I don't know. I'm curious.
Eddie was supposed to testify this week, so maybe they'll have him come in tomorrow afternoon.
Oh.
I'm pretty sure he was on the schedule for this week, but I think the financial stuff kind of
it threw everybody off.
Yeah. So
I just can't believe that this team of lawyers, as smart as they are, that that question was asked of Will Loving. I just am so. The minute it was out of his mouth, I was like, "Oh God!"
Wait, what question?
The defense asked Will. Maybe it was no. I can't remember if it was Loving or Will. Yeah, Loving's. Whether or not how do you put it? Is there anything that he could think of that would make Alec murder his family?
Oh, his cat. Is that what opened up the financial?
That's what opened up the door. And he asked him about, did you know about the boat lawsuit? Did you know about this? Did you know about that? Did you know about this?
They did ask Will that stuff. It was either Will or I think it was Will.
I think it was Will too. I'm gonna have to go back. See, put that on the list of shit we need to nail down.
Yeah, but he did. I remember him asking, like, "Did you know all this stuff with?" I think he asked about the money too. Like,
Yes, he did.
Yeah,
He
did you
did.
know about him?
He even asked. It had to be Will, babe, I think, because I believe it was Will that was asked about the selling of a home. Or maybe it was Rogan. Well, now there you go. Well, listen, we'll have this ironed out by tomorrow. I promise you guys. I will go back and watch, and we will.
I do remember them asking. I just don't remember. It was one of the two.
I think it was because we were so. I got to say, with that video, I thought it was going to be much ado about nothing. I did not expect the quality and the volume
of his voice
to be so loud. I thought it was going to be
so distinct. Like,
yes,
it's clearly him.
Yes, I thought it was going to be one of those things. I thought it was going to be a Todd Mullis situation where people think they hear him say something very specific on the 911 call, and some people don't. And it was one of the basis, one of the things he used as a basis for an appeal.
Or that they did him so bad, or I did him so bad.
Yes, I thought it was going to be like that, where it was going to be up in the air, but it absolutely wasn't.
Yeah.
I think that's why I'm having such a hard time remembering what the actual testimony was and what got us to this point where now we're having fucking, in-camera hearings in between the actual trial going. It's very, it's unlike anything I've ever seen. But anyway, thanks for coming up, babe. I always have a good time with you. I can't wait to go on your channel tomorrow night. Let me know when you, absolutely. Let me know when you schedule the live so that I can share it over here.
All right, I will.
Okay. All right. All right, you guys. Well, thanks everybody for being here. I'm going to wrap it up and end the broadcast. Good night, everybody. Thank you. See y'all tomorrow. Bye.
Bye.